It is 10 o'clock. Good morning. I'm Lucas Panzica, live from the Hattie Bees at the factory in Franklin. And the Nashville Predators are headed to the Stanley Cup playoffs, clinching a Western Conference spot last night with a point taken from the 3-3 overtime loss to the Winnipeg Jets. Preds trailed 3-1 early, end up falling 4-3 in the extra period. The Jaguars have agreed to a 5-year, $150 million deal with outside linebacker Josh Allen, with $88 million in guaranteed money. Allen had a franchise record 17.5 sacks last season. And the Philadelphia Eagles opponent for the Week 1 matchup in Brazil was announced this morning. They will face the Green Bay Packers in São Paulo on Friday of opening weekend of the NFL season. College basketball, the Arkansas Razorbacks have officially announced the hiring of former Kentucky coach John Calipari as the next head men's basketball coach. Waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Good morning. Welcome into 104.5 The Zone, live from the Hattie Bees location at the factory in Franklin. It is a beautiful morning to be out here in Franklin, Tennessee. We've got Lucas, we've got Kirby, we've even got Bert for reasons that are beyond me. Put that thing away, Robert. We're in public. We're happy to have you guys here for the next 3 hours. 615-737-1045 is how you join the discussion at any point. We'd be happy to have you. The Preds officially back in the postseason. Can't get the win last night, but do secure the point that they need in the overtime period, Lucas, to get back in the playoffs. It's an exciting time. I missed playoff hockey. We have to wait a couple more days for the regular season to be complete and to figure out exactly who the Predators are going to see in the first round of the Stanley Cup playoff.
Yeah, Bridgestone was rocking, and early on, it did not look like playoff hockey was going to be achieved or clinched last night.
No, it did not.
At Bridgestone Arena.
They got the early lead. They went up 1-0, about 5 minutes in to the first period, and then very quickly they were down 3-1 for basically the duration of the game until in the final frame they were able to tie it up late, send it to overtime. And, I mean, the comeback was excellent. Like, that is the kind of atmosphere, that's the kind of juice, that's the kind of team that this team has become over the course of this regular season. And to see them pull off the almost comeback, because of course everybody wants to win. You want to get the win. You want to have the good vibes on top of making the postseason. To get the, I think, watching our friends Lindsay Rowley and Hal Gill. Lindsay going to be in studio with us, by the way, on Tuesday, right?
Next week, yep.
Next week, as we get closer and closer to the postseason for the Preds. Lindsay said everybody wants the cherry on top, but to get into the playoffs is a really, really good feeling. And Hal seemed to like the effort that he saw late, despite how poor it was for basically the entire first and second periods.
Yeah, they dug their own hole, but to their credit, they got out of it. Just so many giveaways in the defensive zone, and the Jets scored 3 goals on their first 5 shots of the game. I mean, they were turning UC Saros into target practice early on with how they were not taking care of the puck, but to their credit, they clawed out of it. They score a couple goals in the third period to force OT, and that place was rocking yesterday. I can't wait to see Bridgestone in the playoffs because it'll feel like a refreshed Bridgestone, right? Like it'll feel like a rejuvenated new era playoff hockey in Nashville.
It does have a bit of that new era vibes. We talked about this, the old heads kind of passing things down or kind of shepherding this new group, this young group of Preds into the next generation. They're not. Did you read Gentry Estes in the Tennessean? His column about them not being very good at this whole rebuilding thing because they're already, basically up to speed. There's some stuff that they could stand to clean up. And again, special teams, an issue primarily last night. But this is a fun team. They continue to win in a similar way, it seems. They're capable of the late-game comeback, which you like to see and is a critical part of what the Stanley Cup playoffs are going to be, and I'm looking forward to it. Not as much as Lucas is looking forward to being here this morning because Bert is still here. I assume he's done nothing but eat for 4 hours. Are you well? What is your clothing seems remarkably unstained.
My stomach is currently satiated, but I have been
Don't
waiting.
like that word.
I've been waiting for you to get here, so I've been saving space. So what's the first thing you want to try? Because I'm down to taste food with Buck. Because I am a easy-to-please kind of man. A good old meat and three, some chicken, some hash browns, that's good enough for me. But Buck's elevated palate is one that it's harder to impress. Buck, what are you most interested in trying today?
Well, I'm always impressed with the fare here at Hattie B's, but I'd like to start with a black coffee. I think that's what I'd like to try first.
I think you need to try a cold brew. The cold brew.
I would take a cold brew.
I'll get you a cold brew in the break. It is exceptional. It had me jazzed at
He sounds like
6:20.
me. It's exceptional.
It's
exceptional. A little bit of iced coffee this morning. Yeah, Hattie B's at the factory in Franklin is serving breakfast, as a matter of fact. That's why Ramon, Kayla, and Will were out here today. They are trying something new, adding breakfast to the menu. They're open daily at 7 a.m. out here at the factory, so you can come try some of their new breakfast items. Bert, what did you sample so far this morning? Because I'm looking at the hot chicken biscuit. Kirby was motioning to me violently that I need to try a biscuit more than anything else, even though this is a hot chicken establishment.
That is the first thing that I tried, and I don't know what my favorite part was, whether it was the biscuit, which was perfectly crunchy on the outside, soft on the inside, the chicken, exceptionally girthy.
Lucas is drooling.
Most of the time when you go to a chicken joint for breakfast, they give you a little skinny, slender patty. Not here. Not at Hattie B's.
Thick chicken.
That is thick chick.
Thicken.
Thick chick is what you're getting at Hattie B's, and I had to throw a piece of cheese on there. With the cheese, the hot honey, all of it thrown together, mwah, chef kiss.
Kirby is miming his approval.
In fact, I would kiss the chef. If he came out here, I'd plant one right on him.
Careful what kind of promises you're making around here. Yes, Hattie B's, where the chicken is thick with 2 C's. THICC. All right, so 615-737-1045 is how you call in if you want to talk about last night's hockey game, if you want to react to the Predators being back in the postseason. What do you like most about this Predators team? What do you think gives them the best opportunity to succeed once the playoffs finally get here? There are, 3 regular season games remaining at this point, and I know you're not going to be in town for the because I know the Preds were kind enough to invite us out for a hockey night for the final game of the regular season, at the final home game of the regular season this Saturday.
I will not. I will be in what they call God's country, and that is Toledo, Ohio, the place where Brett Kern played his college football. Brett will be here with us at Hattie B's. That's a lie. Toledo's one of the worst places in the world, but that's where Megan's doing her residency, and that's where I will be.
Do you remember when you asked him for recommendations for Megan of things to do in Toledo, and he said, well, I guess there's the lake?
He said, no, he said, don't swim in the lake.
You don't swim in Lake Erie. No. But did you know that Toledo was the reason why Ohio declared war on Michigan?
No, tell me.
Oh, they did.
Is this like Texas trying to succeed or something like that?
No.
Is this one of those silly things?
This is the only case of a state in the history of our country declaring war on another state because of the Toledo harbor. And so Michigan claimed that as their area, but Ohio was first. And so they freaking declared war on the state of Michigan, and Congress had to come in and tell Michigan, no. They get to keep the Toledo area.
I like that.
Yeah, it didn't last for more than like 3 or 4 days, but
man,
once
what a
again,
mistake
we
that
kicked
was.
their butt.
Could have been yours, Michigan. Could have been yours. So looking forward to having the hockey team back in the postseason. We'll see how the rest of the regular season goes. Again, they do not get the win in overtime last night. 4-3, the Jets are able to squeak out the win in the overtime period. Over very quickly in the overtime period, but the Preds do get the point that they need to advance. As Lucas mentioned, you guys asked for Masters coverage. We said, okay, we'll call our annual Masters BR show Masters correspondent, former Titans punter Brett Kern will be out here with us at Hattie B's at the factory in Franklin. So if the hot chicken wasn't enough to get you out here and come hang, a little golf talk with the GOAT. The MV punter in the 11 o'clock hour is what we're looking forward to today. By the way, Ben Jones going to be on the radio show tomorrow as well. Talk some offensive line prospects, speaking of former Titans that are kind enough to lend their time and talents to the radio show when they're not doing actually important things.
We'll get Masters picks from everyone.
From everyone.
Yes,
What do
from
you mean,
everyone.
What do you mean everyone?
From
what,
Ben
are you
Jones.
You're going to walk around
from
the
Brett
Hattie
Kern.
B's here and ask?
Sure.
Just hold. You want to do? Okay,
I
do
was-
it right,
I
do it right
ta-
now.
I was
go,
talking to
Go
An-
ask Nick Bishop right now who his Masters pick is. See if you can do this man on the street style.
Nick, you were saying not Scotty Scheffler, correct, coming in as the number one golfer in the world, but who?
No, I would say I think if he putts at all, he wins. Yeah, that's it. I'm rooting for Rory though. Let's get that Grand Slam.
I would like to see Rory do it as well. Nick Bishop of Hattie B's, kind enough to host us out here. We'll have Nick on later because we've got some exciting stuff going on with Hattie B's, and it's not just the breakfast menu, although the breakfast menu is awesome. The Hattie B's out here at the factory in Franklin is serving breakfast. This is the only location. We got tweets from some of the listeners, Lucas, about their location in Austin, asking if the Hattie B's in Austin serves breakfast, because we've got listeners all over the place, and Hattie B's is also all over the place. But the only place that you can get the breakfast menu is right here in Franklin. So make sure you come and check it out. They open at 7 a.m. for you to get involved with that.
I'm thinking a hot chicken biscuit with some crispy hash browns accompanied by the Drinking Buddy beer cheese.
The Drinking Buddy beer cheese. Okay,
That's what I'm
an interesting breakfast selection by you, but I'm sure you're not going to regret it. It all looks fantastic. Coming up next, there is some contract news in the AFC South. It's an interesting year in the AFC South. We've talked about the overused phrase of a free agency arm race, but that's very much what it's felt like. And the latest deal to get done is a huge one. We'll talk about that coming up next. I'm Buck Rising, live from the factory in Franklin here at Hattie B's on 104.5 The Zone. Welcome back here live at the Hattie B's location in the factory in Franklin. Uh-oh, Lucas, our guy, George. He's here for you.
Hey, George.
He's here for you. He's rubbing his hands together. Are we going to see if we cannot incapacitate Lucas Panzica with some Hattie B's hot chicken by the end of the show?
He's been plotting his revenge.
George is excited for the opportunity. He is here to put you down, son.
That was November. We were here on Giving Tuesday, right after Thanksgiving, and I remember it like it was yesterday.
Absolutely. We have a lot of memorable callers and a lot of memorable listeners to the show, Lucas, but it's always good when we can come out on location and meet people. And Micah, who's been calling the show, I think as long as we've been on the air and better at this job than we are, so
yes.
I'm just anticipating the day that he takes our jobs, is here at the factory in Franklin and is spending his last day of spring break hanging out here with us. What's happening, Micah?
Yeah, not much. It's great to come on and talk with you guys and just see how it is doing all the work with me wanting to do this kind of when I grow up. So it's just good to see like you guys do this and the station just how it works live.
Oh, so you're not disheartened by the mess that you see in front of you, that this is how professional sports talk radio's maybe not supposed to look, but this is how it does look in real life.
Yeah, maybe a little disheartened, but it's still cool just to see all the stuff you guys got to set up for it and everything.
It's because Kirby and Bert, right? It's because of them.
No, I think it's because of you, buddy.
Yeah, it's Buck.
Absolutely. So Micah is an aspiring sports talk radio host and sports journalist. So tell us, Micah, what are you doing to try and start this career? Because I mean, you're how old?
I'm 13 years old.
Okay, very professional.
Well, you've already started it, haven't you?
Yes, yeah, I got the podcast. So my name's Micah, all AULL. So I started a podcast called All Vols on Spotify. I was actually going to post a post game of the Tennessee Vols basketball season today, and just trying to get like my craft better, trying to just get better like in front of a microphone, just trying to work towards that.
You're already better than me in front of the microphone. What do you mean you need to get better in front of the microphone? What on earth?
Way ahead.
The All Vols podcast, A-U-L Vols podcast.
Yeah, A-U-L-L Vols, yeah.
A-U-L-L Vols podcast, wherever you get your podcasts, where apparently Lucas Panzica has already been a guest.
Yeah, it's on Spotify, but I had him on for it was before the South Carolina game at South Carolina. Talked some Vols. That was a great episode. One of actually my most viewed episodes I've had. So.
Oh, how about that? It was the food talk, though. It was all the food and pasta talk that we had at the end, though. I think that did it.
What kind of pasta advice? Where it was Micah giving you pasta advice as he's giving me broadcast advice right now?
It only took one question about so what's your favorite food? And then I launched into a 30-minute tirade about how you don't cut spaghetti. You can't cut it before you put it in the pot. You have to salt the water, salty like the sea. I don't want to get into it. We'll
for
be here
somebody
for a while.
who will eat literally anything that's put in front of them, you are so finicky about the way that you prepare your food. It's bizarre. I don't understand it. Micah, since the Vols season did end in the Sweet 16, or rather in the Elite 8 against Purdue, what did you make of how the basketball season went, and were you satisfied with the finish that the team had, given that they were beaten by the second best team in the country, who ultimately went on to lose the championship game?
Yeah. I think it was a tough way to go out with just Dalton Knecht being a transfer and how good this Tennessee Volunteers team really was with the potential and everything. I think the Elite Eight, I mean, really, you're supposed to go out when you're playing a 2 seed or a 1 seed and you're a 2 seed. I mean, you're supposed to go out there, but I think they made it about where they wanted to. They didn't exceed, but I don't think they got. I don't think they. What's the right word? I don't think they. They made it through the first weekend. They made it through the Sweet 16. That's what they needed to do. They got to the Elite Eight and they lost there. It was just a tough way to go out with how good and how much potential this team really had in the end. And I think that's what was such a heartbreaker with it, was just how much potential they had. And they could have won the whole thing, I think. But just got a bad matchup with a team that, I mean, you got to give Zach Edey credit. He played well.
No, I don't, Micah. I don't have to give him any credit at all.
Well, I don't think it was fair. I was there at the game, but I don't think it was fair how he had only one foul the whole game. But either way, we lost and got to move on almost. Like, to next season, it's tough to lose Dalton Knecht, really.
What do you think about Calipari at Arkansas?
Calipari at Arkansas, I think it's a win-win for both sides. And you rarely see that in sports with both sides getting what they want. Kentucky gets a fresh start. They're not going to probably get a coach that has each go one and done. And Arkansas and Calipari, he's going to have a ton of resources there. So he's going to have the opportunity to really build a really good program like Kentucky.
Last question. How is it that you call the radio show so often, given that we're on in the middle of the school day?
So I go to a homeschool co-op thing. So I go to school on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and they give me homework so they like teach me what I'm supposed to do for the next couple of days, like the concepts, and then I go home, do the work, and I turn that in, and I take all my tests at school and that kind of stuff.
That sounds like a way better setup than
amazing. Are you kidding me? Calling my mom right after this.
Micah of the All Vols podcast, AULL. Vols is where you can find the podcast, wherever it is that you get your podcast. Buddy, thank you. Lucas, how does it feel to be threatened by a younger generation who's sitting right across from you? See how it feels?
It's only a matter of time. We're going to cling on to these mics as long as we possibly can before Micah takes them out of our cold, dead hands.
I don't know. You guys are doing a pretty good job right now with everything. You guys are here like 5 days a week. You make me laugh every time I listen, so it's great.
Well, we really okay, last question. What's your favorite thing on the Hattie B's menu?
I like those tater tots. I have only had Hattie B's
Would
one
you like
time
a tater
before
tot? They have brought us tater tots with the beer cheese.
Yeah, I just had it. It was great. The tater tots are great. They're well seasoned. Everything. Hattie B's. It's the best fried chicken place with waffles you can find in Nashville.
Nailed it.
Hey,
Mike, he's
real
even
quick.
got the promotional elements of this town. I'm screwed.
So ahead of the game. What's next on the podcast? What are you looking forward to next? Is it spring football? Do you do any baseball? What's next on All Vols?
Yeah, so I'm wrapping up the season for basketball. I'll do an episode on that. Then I will do I'll do a quick. I'll do some baseball. Yeah, really moving to baseball. Try to get some Vols football players, coaches on if I can. Try to find some of those, make those connections, and yeah, just moving into the off season and trying to stay busy for the off season.
Well, buddy,
Awesome.
Thank you for hanging out. Make sure everybody subscribes to the All Vols podcast, wherever it is that you get your podcast. Thanks for hanging out with us, Mike.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me on.
The main man.
Hey, guys, when his voice changes, you need to start looking over your shoulder. I'm not kidding. And when you turn 21, Mike, I owe you 2 beers because those 2 drops you did on him to start the show are priceless.
Yeah, it turns out he gets the show. 615-737-1045 is the number if you want to jump in with us at any point. Hanging out here at Hattie B's at the factory in Franklin. Don't forget our Masters analyst, former Titans punter Brett Kern, is going to be out here with us a little later on to get into the field and make some picks. Tell us who. I don't know that Brett gambles outright. Perhaps since he's retired from professional sports, maybe he places a wager or two. We'll get his sage advice in the 11 o'clock hour.
How much?
Give you guys your golf gambling fix.
How much Tiger talk do you anticipate?
A fair amount. There should be. Anytime he's around this stuff, he is the main event. Like, Nick Bishop mentioned earlier that he's rooting for Rory, and Rory is a good story. Scotty Scheffler is a great story. I don't know if you saw his comments about him getting emotional about being the world number one and throughout the course of or at various points in his career, and how big an opportunity this is for him again coming up. But Tiger is golf forever. it's if Jordan is basketball forever, and LeBron can't take it from him, and nobody can take it from him because you're fighting legend. Basically, at that point, as much as you are actual basketball, then as long as Tiger is around the game of golf in any kind of capacity, Tiger is going to be topic number one. And when what's his kid's name? He's starting to get out there as well. He's been playing in
Little
tournaments.
Tiger?
It's not Little Tiger. No, not Tiger Cub. Robert. Charlie Woods is now he's been involved in this. He's been coming along with this and playing in competitive tournaments and things like that. But, every time Bronny does anything, how big of a talking point is LeBron? It's going to be exactly the same times 10 for Tiger Woods' kid, as long as he's around the game of golf. So, yes, I anticipate a good percentage of Tiger talk today, because that's what people want.
It's such a wide range of, because the conversation around Tiger has been him saying, if I could put it all together, I could get one more, or will he be able to finish a round? It's such a wide gap.
The physical part of it.
Yeah, in the conversation around Tiger Woods, it is fascinating.
We are live at the Hattie B's at the factory in Franklin. They have their new breakfast menu that is on display.
You had a tot?
I did have a tater tot, and I did have the Drinking Buddy beer cheese. Oh, my God.
The crispiest tater tot I've ever had.
I didn't think you were going to get me with 10:30 a.m. beer cheese, given I told Kirby that I had to be in a swimsuit this weekend, and I'm trying to avoid all this stuff. But this is excellent.
Got to fit into a bikini by Friday.
Little Speedo action. South Beach.
You are not wearing a Speedo this
I
weekend.
wouldn't, and not if I eat more beer cheese, I won't. No, Kirby. No. As I shouldn't have eaten a tater tot right as I started to speak into the microphone. We both did the exact same thing. This is wildly unprofessional of us. Either way, speaking of NFL news, Josh Allen, not that Josh Allen, just got a 5-year, $150 million deal from the Jacksonville Jaguars this morning. $88 million in guaranteed money. People have been questioning Trent Baalke, the general manager there, for weeks and weeks, months even, going back through this Calvin Ridley saga. They get this deal done with the franchise tag player. It gives Allen $30 million a year as an edge rusher, which puts him right behind Nick Bosa and Chris Jones. He's not in that tier of players to me.
But he produced like it last year, so the numbers are what they are. Franchise record, 17.5 sacks.
And that matters. But it's kind of like the quarterback conversation, Lucas. Is every quarterback going to be the highest paid quarterback when it's their turn to get paid? Is Trevor Lawrence, just by nature of being the next quarterback, to get paid? And Josh Allen is better at what he does as a pass rusher than is Trevor Lawrence at what he does as a quarterback. But quarterback is obviously the more valuable position. And every time we see these price tags, people do inherently get the sticker shock. I can't imagine most people are thinking that Josh Allen of the Jacksonville Jaguars is a $30 million a year player.
Certainly not going into this past season. He had only had one double-digit sack season, and that was his rookie year back in 2019. His production just took off at the perfect time, 17.5 sacks. And if they happened in bunches, right, the Jags – kind of struggled to affect quarterbacks consistently throughout the course of the season. Trayvon Walker has not lived up to his number 1 overall pick billing, but the numbers are what they are, and they just happened at the perfect time for Josh Allen.
So is this where we're at with edge rushers? Because Chris Jones is an interior defensive. He just got put in the same category as Josh Allen. You're not used to pre-Aaron Donald, basically, and I know that was a decade ago when Aaron Donald first got into the league, and I guess about 5-6 years ago when he got his first mega deal. But we're just getting into the part of the NFL business cycle where interior guys, both defensively and offensive line-wise, are getting $20+, $30+ million a year on their contracts. And I know that he checks all the right boxes for Josh Allen, and that setting a franchise sack record is a notch in his cap, and it's good to see if you're a Jags fan or if you're just a fan of a franchise, no matter who you're a fan of. You want to see your best players that are drafted organically, that produce for you. You want to see them rewarded for that. It sends a good message to the locker room. It creates it's a part of creating a good culture, and you want to be known as a franchise who, if you produce for the Tennessee Titans, the Jacksonville Jaguars, the Atlanta Falcons, whomever, you're going to get paid on the other side. That's a recruiting tactic in free agency, or in as far as undrafted rookie free agents go, because that's a hugely competitive process as well. And the Jags have certainly had a busy offseason. I just don't know. I don't know if the quarterback situation is going to continue this way, in which just the next player up to get paid is going to be the highest paid player, and if Josh Allen with the Jags is just an example of that on the defensive side of the ball.
Are the Jaguars a substantially better football team, though, now? And I know pre-draft, maybe this is a moot point to have this conversation anyway, but would we say this offseason has been a plus so far for the Jacksonville Jaguars in totality?
So I was looking at the moves that they've made. They re-signed the linebacker, and I'm going to butcher his name, Foy Oluokun. Ezra Cleveland, they signed Eric Armstead. They brought him in. Gabe Davis is now one of their top wide receiving options. They've got Darnell Savage, the safety, and Devin Duvernay, who's a return specialist but is technically a wide receiver by trade. It's not an inspiring offseason necessarily because if you're the Jags, you want to see Jacksonville, as a Jags fan, make the kind of moves that the Titans made this offseason, bringing back Calvin Ridley to continue to produce, to continue year 2 in that system, continue to build upon the momentum of Trevor Lawrence and Calvin Ridley as they kind of ironed out the kinks and still were able to produce a 1,000-yard season and 8 touchdowns, as Calvin Ridley continues to note in his press conference. And maybe not necessarily trading for L'Jarius Sneed, because their financial situation is not what Houston, Tennessee, and Indianapolis was. They are much in a much more difficult cap situation, but you want to see them taking the kind of swings that the Texans are, because the Jags are technically in this, hey, we should be competing for a Super Bowl window, not just can we keep pace with the Texans in the AFC South. That's what's so uninspiring about this. If you're a Jags fan, I'm sure Titans fans are thrilled with it, and especially taking something from the Jags to add to your arsenal in Calvin Ridley, especially when the expectation was for him to end up back there, basically until the final hour. Indianapolis, the moves that they've made to retain the vast majority of their talent, they're a solid team. They're probably going to end up being league average unless Anthony Richardson takes a substantial jump, and we don't know that that's any kind of a guarantee. He's just played so little football. The Titans have been the most aggressive team as far as keeping pace, or at least trying to make some noise against the Texans in the division, but they also had the furthest to go. They did not have the kind of talent that Indianapolis had on the roster to retain with their money. They are not in a situation where they clearly and obviously, like the Jags, have their franchise quarterback, even though Will Levis has a lot of traits that you like. There's nothing about the 9-game sample size that we've got from him to determine that he should be definitively the future of this franchise the way that Trevor Lawrence is definitively the future of the Jags franchise, because they seem like they're in a bit of a pickle with that, don't they? I mean, do you want to commit long-term to a guy who's basically been league average?
Yeah, this year might have to be telling in that. I don't know. I wonder what the conversation is in Jacksonville right now.
They're pissed. They want to fire Trent Baalke.
They've got to feel like their death grip on the division was so fleeting.
It lasted like a half a season.
Half a season. Because even by season's end, even though the Jags completely let the division slip, and even though the Jags lost to the Titans in the regular season finale, nobody would have said the Titans are ahead of Jacksonville, right? At the end of the regular season. Nobody would have said that. Now I feel like I don't know if you can make that argument because of the question that is still Will Levis, but the Titans, without question, have had a better offseason. The Titans have improved far more this offseason than the Jags have improved from the starting point that both teams had, respectively, at the end of the season. So I'd be upset, and we've talked about Trent Baalke's history or lack thereof in drafting receivers. They picked 17th in the first round of this year's draft. You think the conversation in Duval County is you have to take the best receiver available there? Do you think that's what the conversation is right now?
It needs to be, especially at 17. Because you're going to have some difference makers at a variety of different positions on offense more than any other group. This is such an offensively gifted draft class, both in terms of skill, talent, and the trenches. You have to get this right if you're the Jags. They do have offensive line needs as well, but you can't wander into the gunfight that the AFC South is turning out to be with a knife that's in the shape of Gabe Davis. It doesn't scare me at all.
Nope, not really.
Christian Kirk is a prison ship at this point. He's an effective tool if you can figure out how to use him properly.
He's a spoon that's been just carved into a shiv. He's not exact. What is Calvin Ridley then? Like a machete? Like what kind of weapon is Calvin Ridley if Christian Kirk is a spoon turned into a shiv?
I like the machete comparison. We're getting a little violent this morning as people are trying to enjoy their breakfast at Hattie B's. 615-737-1045 is the number if you would want to jump in on the conversation. As I mentioned, we are live at the factory in Franklin here at the Hattie B's location, where it is the only location that you can get their new breakfast menu. Classic hot chicken biscuits, the pimento cheese, and hot chicken. The hot chicken and waffle stack, Lucas. It looks not safe for work. Like, it looks like something that should come with a warning label.
It literally does. There's
Yeah.
a little red flag that says hot planted into it.
It looks so good, though.
Real quick, speaking of the Jags, you want to talk about forgotten offseason moves and free agency? Mac Jones is a Jacksonville Jaguar. I feel like that's something that we're going to forget until the season starts and Trevor Lawrence goes down at one point or another, and number 10, Mac Jones, trots out there, and we're all like, oh, right. Mac Jones plays for the Jacksonville Jaguars. He's back home.
No, you know why? The only reason, because I would agree with you that it would be a forgettable transaction if I had not seen Jacksonville post a picture of him hammered at a Jags tailgate at some point in his life. Coming as a Jags fan, growing up in the area, it was one of the funnier things because a bunch of people I know that work in the athlete representation business sent me that and said, "What the hell is this team doing?" Coming up next, Lucas has some SEC observations. It's been a really, really interesting hot stove time in the world of college basketball with the waves that Coach Cal and Arkansas have caused. We got an official statement from Cal yesterday. You'll hear that coming up next. Welcome back here at Hattie B's, the factory at Franklin. We got the dumbest thing in sports this week coming up at 11 o'clock. Our Masters analyst, former Titans punter Brett Kern, is going to be here as well. We'll get into the golf. Kirby has a story for Brett about him having the opportunity to watch Tiger win the most recent Masters that Tiger won. Was that 2019? If I remember correctly, iconic moment, and Kirby was not able to go. We'll share that story with Brett Kern here in just a little bit. 615-737-1045 is the number if you want to join in. In the meantime, we have some SEC observations.
Let's talk about SEC, baby. Let's talk about the SEC. Let's talk about Nick Saban and Josh Heupel in the SEC. Let's talk about SEC, baby. Let's talk about the SEC. Let's talk about Brian Callahan and Greg Sankey in the SEC. Let's talk about SEC.
Really quickly before you get to your observation, somebody just DM'd me. Robert A. Deitch on Twitter says Kirby is correct. The U.S. government compromise gave Ohio disputed 6 miles and gave Michigan the Upper Peninsula.
Yes, the
Kirby, factually accurate.
The beginnings of the Michigan-Ohio State rivalry.
Where we thought the show would start today.
John Calipari is officially the head coach of the Arkansas Razorbacks. He posted a goodbye video on social media yesterday to Kentucky fans. Here is a portion of that video from Coach Cal.
Weeks, we've come to realize that this program probably needs to hear another voice, that the university as a whole has to have another voice giving guidance about this program that they hear. And the fans need to hear another voice. We've loved it here, but we think it's time for us to step away. And step away completely from the program. There have been opportunities that have been presented to us, and we're discussing them as a family.
Singular is to coach Arkansas basketball. Contract details.
With a big old blank check, by the way.
$7 million salary for Coach Cal, a signing bonus of $1 million, a yearly retention bonus of $500,000, and a national title bonus, if they were to win it, of $500,000, and a Final Four bonus of $350K, Sweet 16, $250K. The list goes on. The buyout currently is $6 million.
But that does not mention one of the most important things about Cal going to Arkansas. They basically gave him a $5 million slush fund with which to recruit with in NIL.
Correct.
And this is the thing that, what Cal has accomplished, is it 4 Final Fours in a championship at Kentucky?
Just at Kentucky?
Oh, no, actually, I believe it was just at Kentucky. Though his resume has obviously he's got a more decorated resume than just that.
Yeah, he took UMass to a Final Four. He took Memphis to a Final Four. So certainly more. He has 6 Final Fours in his career. You're right.
4 at Kentucky.
4 at Kentucky.
Okay, so 4 Kentucky, 4 Final Fours and a natty is good enough at Arkansas. That's lifetime deal type of stuff for basically almost any other program in college basketball. At Kentucky, it's simply not good enough. What Cal is going to be given at Arkansas, maybe it ends up being the same Cal experience and just in a different uniform, and that's how it goes, right? It's safe to expect that, I think, and I think that's okay at Arkansas. Kentucky obviously has put themselves in a position to pivot pretty drastically, and to do so with one of the most prolific figures in the program's history, who was there as long as anybody not named Adolph Rupp, as we talked about. Micah said it best. It makes a lot of sense for both sides. The question now, and it seems like Kentucky is narrowing in on Scott Drew, the Baylor coach, targeting Scott Drew as the next Kentucky men's basketball coach. I don't know if they've already done the make Danny Hurley say no part of the proceedings just yet, but that seems to be the direction that it's heading. Can Scott Drew achieve at a higher level than he did with Baylor, at a job with much better resources and a much higher level of investment in the basketball program? Because what Scott Drew has done winning a national championship at Baylor has been more than good enough, certainly, and that's a program that has had better years than the most recent one. but still has maintained a consistent level of play, has been in the top 10 year in and year out, basically since Scott Drew got that thing right. He is a highly successful basketball coach. The question is he good enough for the Kentucky job?
Yeah, Dan Hurley quite literally laughed it off in the post-game after UConn won back-to-back national titles. Billy Donovan has reiterated his commitment to the Chicago Bulls in the NBA. It does seem like Scott Drew is the move. Those are all the reports. He has a relationship with Kentucky AD Mitch Barnhart, and I think it's a great hire. I mean, you're talking, like you said, a national championship coach, 2-time Big 12 regular season champs, 3-time Big 12 Coach of the Year. Baylor is in the conversation year in and year out. It has been since 2017-18, since the last time Baylor had a sub-20 win season. Before that, you got to go all the way back to 2010-11. He's made multiple Elite Eights, multiple Sweet 16s, so I think this is a good hire for Kentucky. What I'm most fascinated at is how Cal is received at Arkansas in terms of the expectations. Because Arkansas is a place where if you rinse and repeat, and Cal continues this trend of bringing in talent, you win in the regular season, it's a developmental process where you struggle early, you find success late, and then you go one and done in the SEC tournament, NCAA tournament. That pressure can build at Arkansas like it has at Kentucky. Like, Arkansas is a national championship winning program in its history. Multiple Final Fours, the most accomplished SEC basketball program outside of Kentucky in the conference. So I'm fascinated to see what the expectations look like with Cal, but I bet they'll be very good very early. Real quick, do you want to hear from Kim Caldwell?
I do.
And
the new Lady Vols basketball coach.
Lady Vols introductory presser. Jackson, can we hear from former Marshall coach Kim Caldwell?
The part of history that I need no catching up on is Pat Summitt's legacy and how powerful the Lady Vols family is. When I say I am honored and humbled to be here, there is not a single person who has gone through this program that I could even come close to beating one-on-one. It is a remarkable program. I can't wait to connect with our former players and listen to their stories, hear their history, and pass on what it means to be a Lady Vol and represent that in our program. Pat Summitt changed the game of basketball, and wouldn't she love to see where the game is now? I will never be Pat Summitt. Nobody can. But I will strive every day to be somebody that she would be proud of.
So Kim Caldwell saying all the right things.
Correct.
In her introductory presser. Obviously, it's easy to win the press conference. You have to win on the floor. But you know who kept popping into my head when I thought about this hire is Bruce Pearl when he was hired at Tennessee. Just how similar the resume is. In former D2 national champion, no Power 5 experience. Bruce was hired from Milwaukee to come coach at Tennessee. If anything, Marshall's a bigger program and university than Milwaukee basketball. And an entertaining, fast-paced style of play that Kim Caldwell will bring to the Lady Vols. And it's comforting knowing Danny White's resume and hiring coaches, and also knowing that the expectation will not waver. We talked about the bonus that would be automatically making her the highest paid coach in women's basketball if she were to win a national title. And Danny White admitted in his appearance with the media saying, look, do I wish there was some more experience there, more of a sample size in her career? Yeah, I do. But we believe we found the right person. So far, he's pretty much batting 1,000 in terms of trying to find the right person at every stop he's been at as an AD.
Those are the SEC observations for this week. Coming up next, we'll get you your Masters preview with our regular Masters correspondent, former Titans punter Brett Kern, will join the show. We also have a giveaway scheduled for the dumbest thing in sports this week as we broadcast live at the factory in Franklin here at Hattie B's. Come hang out with us. We're here until 1 o'clock. The Tennessee Men's Clinic is here to help guys who are dealing with ED or are in need of weight loss treatments. They've been treating guys like you for decades, and there's no need to put off getting the help that you need if you feel like you are in this category. ED treatments at the Tennessee Men's Clinic are what they specialize in. They see a lot of guys who have dealt with pills and herbals and have not seen the kind of results that they want. They're there to help you with non-surgical solutions that will get you back to peak performance. The Tennessee Men's Clinic has 2 locations in downtown Nashville and in Cool Springs to be able to get you right for treatment, and they can always get you a same-day or next-day appointment. So visit them online at theTennesseeMen'sClinic.com. That's theTennesseeMen'sClinic.com.
It is 11:01. Good morning, live from the Hattie Bees at the factory in Franklin. I'm Lucas Panzica on 104.5 The Zone. The Nashville Predators are officially headed to the Stanley Cup playoffs, clinching a Western Conference spot last night with a point taken from the 4-3 overtime loss to the Winnipeg Jets at Bridgestone Arena. The Preds trailed 3-1 early before scoring 2 third-period goals to force the extra period. The Jacksonville Jaguars have agreed to a 5-year, $150 million deal with outside linebacker Josh Allen, $88 million in guaranteed money. Allen had a franchise record 17.5 sacks just last season. The Eagles' opponent for the Week 1 matchup in Brazil was announced this morning. They will face the Green Bay Packers in São Paulo on Friday of opening weekend. It'll be the first NFL game ever played in South America. Also in college basketball, Arkansas has officially announced the hiring of former Kentucky coach John Calipari to be the next men's basketball coach of the Arkansas Razorbacks. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Hour number 2, and we've got one of our favorites here with us live at the factory in Franklin. When it's the Masters, you know that we are insufficient to be able to discuss golf with any kind of expertise, so we have to outsource as we do oftentimes, and it's always a great pleasure to see former Titans punter Brett Kern here with us. Long time no see, bud.
Good to see you. I'm probably not the most educated for this, but I'm probably the only one available.
And, well, you do have a little more free time in your life, though. It sounds like you're keeping your days very, very full.
Yeah, very prepped out, it seems, as well.
Yeah, this is just a bunch of copying and pasting, really. No, I mean,
that's the job.
If I was still working, right, if I was still a Titan, I'd be at work right now. So, new coach, reported early, but I'm not doing that. So now I'm just, waiting until time to pick the kids up from school and practices and all that good stuff. So
it's kind of nice not having to go to work on April the 8th as a football player, Brett. I have to imagine.
Especially to properly prepare for Masters prep for this show.
Absolutely. Yes, it's like Casey Alexander. When Belmont doesn't make the tournament, Casey loves being our tournament analyst. Of course, I'm sure that's not true.
He says, I don't have time for recruiting calls. I'm about to join the Buck Rising show.
So Brett is here with us, 615-737-1045. If you want to jump in, if you want to say hi, you're welcome to do so. You also have access to the F&M Bank chat. Now, you told me something that is damn near blasphemous over text, Brett, that you have not tried Hattie B's before.
I've not.
This is a shame.
I mean, a lot of times, like,
where is George?
I want to be able to try local things as a family.
Oh,
right. And Hattie B's is very popular, and so we actually came here about a week ago.
Here to the factory?
Yeah, because we're not far from here, and so we came, but the line was out the door. And when you got 3 kids that are wanting food and are hangry, you can't do that. So I'm excited to try some stuff today. It's been a staple around here that I'm looking forward to trying. So
absolutely, and there's no lines right now at the factory in Franklin. So come out, get some lunch, and get the best hot chicken here at Hattie B's. So Masters prep. This is a different kind of year. Golf has been in the news over the last calendar year for a great many things that are not necessarily just golf-related.
Yeah.
And this is the premier event on the golf calendar. It's not without some controversy because the participation of the LIV Golf. How have you viewed the whole LIV PGA experience and the way that the PGA was so averse to everything LIV-related at the jump? All to just basically, it felt like to me, Brett, a little bit of bending the knee to what LIV is at this point and saying, I don't know what we're going to call this thing, but we're all in this together at this point. Nothing to see here.
Yeah, I think money, at the end of the day, money is the most important thing, right?
Yep.
Everything's a business. NFL, you could say that, that screen call the other night in women's college basketball, right? I think who they wanted in the final.
We have a tinfoil hat conspiracist.
Yeah. Anyways.
You're not the only one who thinks that, by the way.
No, I think Scotty Scheffler said it best because, a lot of those guys that left, I understand they kind of want the competing league. There's a ton of money. The Saudis, I know, are investing in a lot of things globally outside of oil and all that. They're trying to diversify, and so golf is probably a great way to, as far as sports-wise. So, but Scotty said it best because a lot of these guys here are, Tyler Gooch, is complaining why he didn't get into the Masters. Some of these guys, why aren't we getting world ranking points?
Yeah.
Well, you made the choice, to leave the PGA and to go to the Live Golf to make, what's John Rahm over there for? 500, 600 million?
Doing okay.
He's doing fine. And some of these guys left for that kind of money, and here they are trying to get still the same benefits that the PGA now has expanded upon with these events that they're doing. And so now they're kind of left in the dust. And you look at somebody like Patrick Reed, right, who he needs some of these guys to be able to qualify for the PGA Championship or other majors, right, because that's really all they can play for at this point. They have to finish top 5, top 4 in the Masters just to even qualify, to even try to get a chance to play in another major.
But there's not as much of a war of words. Like, you're not hearing the bickering, and Rory McIlroy is quiet. Do you think everybody's just kind of tired of yelling at each other about it?
Yeah, I mean, you have to be.
Publicly.
Like, you have to be. It's probably one of those situations where when your team's, in football, you're average and you don't know what's going to happen with your head coach. And every time you go in, the media comes in. It's like, so what do you think is going to happen? And it just gets old after a while, and it wears on you. And I think these guys,
not us coming in to bother people on a regular basis. Brett, intimately familiar with that process. Oh, what do you think is going to happen tomorrow?
No, I just think that I think it's kind of the point where I think enough PGA Tour guys have said things to these live guys that have been like, you made this choice to go. You made the choice to go. You got your money. Shut up. Go play in the live. And I don't know what else to tell you, right? We stayed. We're loyal to the PGA. We have our world rankings. We're going to be able to play in the majors. Obviously, they've heightened with some of these signature events. You win it. You win $4 million. Well, that's the same as what you'd get on a live tour with limited field. It's pretty much the same as a live event, right? So, the guys are probably done. They're done with it.
Well, it's just it's always interesting to talk about those things because it's just the most human element of it. Like, how much of that stuff is roiling under the surface, and how much does it affect performance? It's been a number of months at this point, so you would think that they've gotten past whatever contentiousness there might be, or at least addressed it to the point where, like, all right, let over it, move on. But to me, it's just there was no consequences for the guys who took the live money. If I'm a PGA player and I was loyal and I did choose to stay, and then I'm looking around and being like, all right, what do I get out of this? All for the PGA to just essentially fold into, or fold in with, but really fold into live. I would not be happy. I would want to see some level of consequence for the guys who took the live money as a product of staying, or if I'm a guy who chose to stay with the PGA.
I think their consequence is their name is fading. Like, the guys that go to live, have you watched the live golf tournament?
No, I'm planning to go to the one here in Nashville at College Grove.
Are they still on CW?
I believe they are, because I actually watched the playoff when they played in Mayakoba. I don't know why.
But the fact that you have to ask that and that you can't answer it definitively is all you need to know.
I think I watched it in between some Andy Griffith reruns.
But what I'm saying, I think that the consequence for them is they're becoming no world ranking points. Their name, is not talked about every week. Nobody really talks about the live that much. They're not in the majors unless you've won the major. Like somebody like Brooks. Some of the guys, John Rahm, that have won. And they're exempt on some of these majors for a while, but other than that, I don't even know if you can name me 10 players that are on the live tour right now. So I think their name is starting to fade and becoming less relevant, and I think that's probably a pretty big consequence for some of them.
Former Titans punter Brett Kern, our Masters analyst, is here hanging out here with us at Hattie B's. All right, so let's start with Scottie Scheffler, the world number one, coming into this. Let's talk some actual golf. Between him and Rahm, how do you view the two of them at this point in their careers heading into this particular tournament?
Yeah, Scottie Scheffler obviously going, Arnold Palmer win, Players win, missing that 5-footer in Houston to make it 3 in a row. I think, at Augusta, and I think Jordan Spieth said it best, is, it's a second shot course, right? There's so many different greens, complexes. Some are tiered, 3-tiered. You have to hit low trajectory to bounce up, first tier to get to a second tier, kind of like number 9. There's other ones, you're talking about a tabletop, right? Number 12 over in Amen Corner. It's small. I don't know if you've ever been, but that is a small target.
No, I've not had the privilege.
That is a small target, right? So it requires you to hit so many different shots. But most importantly, you have to hit greens. And Scottie Scheffler right now, I think, is 76.1%. Leading the tour in greens and regulation, and that is a scary stat. I mean, I think he's plus 400 to win. The last time somebody was in that category was Tiger, and I think for you to win an Arnold Palmer signature event and the Players the way he did, to follow it up in Texas, obviously missing that putt. I mean, that's Tiger type stuff. And so, the betting favorite hasn't won in 19 years. The last guy to do it was obviously Tiger, 2005. And Scotty coming in at plus 400. Tiger was the last. I think he was plus 350, and he finished tied fourth. So, but I mean, if there's somebody that can do it, and as far as repeating, Scotty didn't repeat when he won the green jacket.
Right.
So as far as Rahm being able to repeat, I know he came out this week saying he hopes Liv can play 72-hole golf tournaments. Right? They only play 3 rounds. Right? I mean, there's no cut, but they play 3 rounds. So even that extra round, it doesn't seem like much for some of these guys, but it's another round of competition.
How much of a wild card is the Scotty Scheffler stuff with his wife maybe going into labor and he's saying he's going to pull out if she does? Like, how much are you paying attention to that if you're gambling on Scotty Scheffler?
I thought about it. I was like, man, and he's, and Sam Burns is the other one. Sam Burns' is wife, I guess she's due in a week and a half, and Scotty's, 3 weeks. So, I mean, that's obviously something that's probably going to be on his mind, but I know his mental, for him to how he's won tournaments, to overcome, the year that he won the Masters, he woke up, shaking, anxiety, was, kind of in tears, and he didn't know how he was going to handle this pressure, right? And obviously he can. So I think once he's on the golf course, he's playing, round's over, he'll check in, and, I think he'll be good.
Scheffler's on the 15th hole on Sunday. He's up 2 strokes, and then he finds out his wife is going into labor. Does he pull out?
Kirby said no, as if it was even a question. Kirby, it's the birth of a child. What do you mean? He said no.
He's already got a green jacket.
He's disgusted by the idea that anybody would bail on playing in the Masters to see the birth of their child.
Story. I could see him leaving. He's already got a green jacket.
Yeah.
I know he'd probably want another one, but once you get one, you're in. But that would be, golly, that would be one. Is there a prop bet on that? Like,
there has to be somewhere on some kind of offshore book.
Someone in the F&M Bank chat says that if you bet on Scheffler, it would be void if he pulls out because of that.
Well, the question is, who was the Rams wide receiver, the local kid?
Van Jefferson.
Van Jefferson. They didn't tell him
Yeah.
his wife was going
at the Super Bowl.
into labor during the Super Bowl. They didn't tell him and then told him after the game. The question is, does somebody tell Scotty Scheffler if his wife is going into labor? One would think he doesn't have his cell phone.
Sprinting out onto the fairway.
Scotty!
well, I mean, what's the phone policy, for players and caddies? Like, can his caddy Jeb Scott be like, hey, Ted Scott, can he, look in the bag and say, hey, man, you're still good to go on the, like, I don't know if that's.
What if he blames that? What if the caddy can tell him, but he blames the caddy afterwards and says, "Oh, the caddy didn't tell me," and then slips him an extra.
What
couple
about
of grand
pagers?
afterwards.
Are pagers allowed?
When's the last time
A
you ever seen
helicopter just lands in the middle of the 15th fairway and grabs him.
I could see that as well, too.
It's a sleeper cell operation. All right, we'll talk about one of the biggest headlines of this Masters. Always, anytime Tiger Woods is involved in the Masters, it is a talking point. So we'll talk about whether Brett Kern thinks he can make the cut or not. Coming up next, we'll also have the dumbest thing in sports this week. Do you have one prepared?
I'll think of one real quick.
There's a lot of dumb things in sports. You can figure out something. Lucas, what do we have for people who give us the dumbest thing in sports this week? We'll let Brett Kern decide the winner.
We have a pair of Nashville Sounds tickets to give away. Sound season has started up. We have 2 tickets to see the Sounds host the Omaha Storm on April 17th at First Horizon Park. That is a week from tonight. I'm sure the weather will be beautiful. The best submission for the dumbest thing in sports will get the ticket, 615-737-1045.
Live from Hattie B's at the Factory in Franklin. I'm Buck Rising. This is 104.5 The Zone. Here live at the factory in Franklin. We're hanging out at Hattie B's, the lunch menu. We've officially pivoted from the breakfast menu that you can only catch at the factory in Franklin, their new breakfast menu debuting today. We've officially pivoted to the lunch menu. Lucas, what are you contemplating?
All of it.
He's been sitting here yelling for George. Where is George?
George!
I need my tenders. George is plotting something back there for you at some point. Oh, he's right behind me. He's literally over your shoulder. He's waiting to take you down. We do this game every time we come out here, Brett, where George, who is kind enough to bring us out samples of stuff that they have on the menu here, he just consistently ups the heat level every time he brings a tray of food out for Lucas to see if he can incapacitate him live on the air.
I tell you what, if you have allergies, you're stuffed up like I am, right? I'm not going to do this because I just don't want to experience this on live radio. But
because you want to enjoy your food.
You have things to do today.
To shut the cluck up. I mean, I think that'd probably clear you out a little bit.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that'll fix you right up.
Every which way.
And look at George just wiping off the benches out here, making sure he could sit outside.
He's just lurking.
Really nice
he's very inconspicuous, George.
Waiting for his moment to strike.
When the opportunity presents itself, it will. Speaking of the opportunity to strike, let's go ahead since Brett Kern is here. Well, I said we'd talk a little Tiger first. Do we want to do the dumbest thing in sports first? Or do we want to do Tiger first?
Ooh. Let's talk about Tiger.
Let's talk about Tiger. All right, Tiger misses the cut last year. It's always a question of the physical, how physically taxing it is for him at this point in his career. But anytime he plays this golf course, anytime he plays Augusta, you cannot count him out because of how well he knows it. And I know that's something that people say every year, but that matters. And I know that you can speak to that and how well he is able to perform in this specific tournament as well as any other that he's played.
I mean, he probably knows the course better than anyone else, especially with the success that he's had, right? I think you're right, though. It comes down to, can he walk that golf course 4 days in a row? Because it is tough. There are some steep hills that I'm sure get him pretty good. I've been a couple of times, and as a patron walking, it's like you're out of breath, and then to be able to collect yourself and have to hit a golf shot on top of that is, and he's obviously not getting any younger, and his body's not, there's so much scar tissue in that guy. It's tough. So, I told you guys a stat earlier, 8 of the 9 last champions were first-time Masters winners, right? So you're talking about Tiger, Spieth, Adam Scott, Sergio, Dustin, Hideki, Rahm, Patrick Reed. All those guys have already won it, and you kind of eliminate them from the field, and so. But his experience, I mean, you can't cut him out. I mean, I think he can make the cut, right? Especially if it's a good draw with the weather. I think tomorrow's supposed to be thunderstorms and all that kind of stuff, and. Some of those times you get caught in a thunderstorm close by and you feel the wind and all that kind of, and at Augusta it swirls like crazy. And so there might be the morning guys might get a rough share. I mean, it just depends, right? So, but his experience is key. We'll see.
You can get him right now on the offshore books to make or miss the cut. To make it is plus 100. To miss it is minus 137. For Tiger to win outright, he is 250 to 1 on FanDuel, which is not the longest odds of anybody in the field.
I mean, he says he could. I mean, just seeing his interview the other day. I mean, he says he can win it, right? He wouldn't be there if he couldn't. So I just think it's if he can physically handle that golf course. And everything that comes along with it for 4 days.
How many times have you been to Augusta?
I think 4.
What's been your favorite memory of going? Because I know you've done trips in the past. I know you and Suckup have made trips before. I know Ben's gone with you from time to time. Ben, by the way, is pissed.
Yeah, he texted me that. And I think this is more nerves on your end of not having this become the Ben and Brett show.
Sure.
But I'm fine with it being the Lucas Panzica show starring Ben, Brett, and Buck. But that's four voices. That's a lot.
I already have Micah. I don't know if you heard young Micah.
Yeah, he might be coming in hot too.
He's on the rise.
Come out here and dust me on my own radio show. And not only do that, but understand that it is primarily Lucas driving the ship around here.
I mean, my son, Bryce, he's in 8th grade. Next year, when he goes to high school, he can take a broadcasting class at his school. So I'm just.
And Bryce has been interviewing Lamar Jackson at the Pro Bowl.
That's true.
Since he's been like
that's actually a good point.
He's been in studio too. He's already getting a feel for it.
It's exhausting. Yeah.
What's your favorite Masters food item?
The club sandwich.
It's just hands down.
Hands down. And then the ice cream sandwiches are number 2. And then it's just rinse, repeat. So...
Yes. Speaking of food, I was saying that Ben Jones is pissed because Ben is going to be in studio tomorrow, and we invited Brett to come out to Hattie B's instead. He
Correct.
texted me and said, "I'm the O lineman. What the hell?"
Pretty much. Yeah.
I said I didn't know if Hattie B's like gave us a tab or anything like that. I'm not trying to push it today, Benny, because he's I think still out here trying to get a job as far as I know.
Yeah. I just saw him last week. Played a little golf, and he's in great shape. He's working out a bunch. Feeling good. Today would probably be his cheat day, so
Could order some Hattie B's to the studio.
We can do that for Ben Jones. So your best Masters memory in the 4 trips that you've taken to Augusta?
Yeah, I mean, I've tried to experience the 4 times that I've gone. I've tried to experience. I went just for a practice round, which was interesting because obviously not everybody's playing, so you kind of have to follow certain guys, but there's not as many people. I've gone Thursday and Friday, and that was fun too because you got to see everybody play. And then I've done the Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, which was exhausting. It was a lot to walk that course 4 days in a row. But the hard part was on Sunday was like you have to get a primo spot.
Yeah.
Like when the leaders are teeing off on 10, you can watch them tee off, and then you got to go wait on 18. So you're literally watching the whole back 9 transpire on the scoreboard, and that was tough. Like I'd rather, for me, as great as it was being there on a Sunday, I'd rather be at home watching that action happen. And then I've been Wednesday before, so honestly, for me, like the Thursday, Friday, to get to see everybody tee off from 7 in the morning till 2 o'clock in the afternoon, things were kind of spread out, right? We got to follow Tiger, which was a task in and of itself.
Sure.
You kind of have to plan ahead, right, hole wise. You can't really watch them hole by hole. It's like, all right, I'm going to watch them here on 5, and then I'm going to cross over to 7. It's it's a task. But that Thursday, Friday was pretty fun.
Who'd you see win when you were there on Sunday?
It was when Angel Cabrera won in the playoff. Yeah. So I think I'm trying to remember who he's in the playoff with, but that was we actually got I went with my college roommate, and we got a really, really good spot there on 10. To kind of watch it to come in, but they were just 18 down to 10, 18, and that was just it's like, oh man. So
not quite the finish.
Yeah,
that you
Adam Scott. That's who he was in the playoff with.
Is that right?
Adam Scott.
Kirby confirms.
yeah. So yeah, but it was fun.
You ready to do the dumbest thing in sports this week? Have you prepared a submission?
Yeah, in the last 5 minutes, absolutely, because it didn't take much because I saw one on the TV already, and it just got my blood boiling.
Listen, the one thing about the sports world is it always provides entertainment, but it always provides us something dumb. All right, Jackson, hit the music.
Let's be honest. You've already seen something this week that made you say,
What the is this?
That's bullshit.
What the hell? Give me some more now.
something so mind-numbingly idiotic that you just want to get it off your chest.
Dumber than a second coat of paint.
Some idiot.
You are really dumb. For real. It's the dumbest thing in sports this week on the Buck Rising Show.
It sure is. And if you give us the dumbest thing in sports this week, 615-737-1045, we'll give you a pair of Sounds tickets. Brett Kern will pick the winner as we broadcast live out here at the factory at Franklin in Hattie B's, their location here. Brett, I will cede the floor to you. What is the dumbest thing in sports this week?
Well, about 4 minutes ago, we were watching Steph Curry do an interview because they are very close to getting into the play-in tournament, which I think is extremely dumb. It's 1 through 8, right? You take the best 8, you square off, and you play. The whole play-in tournament, he's interviewing because they're a game and a half behind the Lakers, and that's what the conversation is. The NBA play-in tournament.
A game and a half behind the Lakers for 9th place.
For 9th place. Correct. And so, who won the NBA play-in tournament? Or the in-season tournament.
The in-season tournament, wasn't it the Pacers?
It was the Lakers.
Oh, yeah. That's right, because LeBron had a trophy. He was celebrating. Didn't they hang a banner for the play-in? I think they did.
They're going to hang a banner. Okay. Add that to the list.
I think I just pissed Brett off again.
No, I just don't. I mean, it's like having a conversation. It's like having a conversation in the NFL about you got your playoff seed, teams are going, and then you're just like, well, I mean, who's going to get this 8th seed, 9th, and you're talking about subpar 500 teams.
Which
right?
NFC South team under 500 is going to make the playoffs this year?
Yeah, it's dumb.
I agree. Lucas Panzica, what's the dumbest thing in sports this week?
Well, Brett already referenced it, and it's Jon Rahm, the Masters winner, Jon Rahm, who now obviously is a part of Live Golf and is campaigning for Live Golf to go to 72 holes. The quote from Rahm to the BBC was, if there ever was a way where Live could go to 72 holes, I think it would help all of this argument a lot. The closer I think we can get Live Golf to some other things, the better. I think it would be for some kind of unification to feed into a world tour or something like that. Who wants to tell him? Who wants to tell him what LIV stands for? Jon Rahm, I'm sure, probably wants Liv to do away with shotgun starts and the no-cut rules and go to 72 holes and basically do all the things that the PGA Tour does, but with the money that he gets with Live Golf. Jon Rahm's my dumbest thing in sports this week for not going that LIV literally means 54 holes.
And you'll get to see him in Masters and all his Live. There it is, right there on the TV, and his Aces hat and shirt polo.
Yeah, the teams in Live are. It's I'm sure after a certain amount of time I'll get over it, and they're going to change all of this stuff again once they figure out what the hell the PGA Tour Live Golf Tour combo is going to be called.
Would you watch Live Golf PGA Tour Ryder Cup style?
Ooh, I think I would.
Yeah, I think that could get contentious.
Absolutely, because there's legitimate
beef.
Oh, which is what makes the Ryder Cup so fun. The fact that the Americans and the Europeans get into it that much, and there's legitimate pride on the line beyond just the stakes and the money, which all these guys have made plenty of money in their careers. I would love that.
I would watch that.
I just think that's a great way for Liv to try and get a part of the PGA Tour's television deal instead of doing. If it's on CW, I'm not going to watch it. I'm probably not going to watch it on CW. My dumbest thing in sports this week is the amount of criticism that LeBron James is getting from everybody who does not know what it is to parent a child.
Like you?
At that level. Agreed. I am not somebody who's going to criticize LeBron James. I don't know what it is to be a parent to a child. I don't know what it is to be LeBron James's child. I'm sure it comes with a great deal of adversity. I understand that this person has had basically every luxury in his life that could be afforded to an individual. It also comes with a tremendous amount of pressure. And his dad, I don't know if he's helping or hurting him on social media, but still, like, what do you? I'm not going to tell LeBron how to parent his kid. It's not my place to do it. I know there are plenty of parents out there who are more comfortable doing so than I am, but I just think it's ridiculous how it's become a first take, embrace debate topic about whether or not LeBron James should be weighing in on his kid's draft stock. Let him do what he wants.
Well, I think it's more about LeBron, trying to get the Lakers to draft.
Oh,
Bronny.
Gaslighting people?
Yes,
Sure,
yeah.
that's dumb.
I think that's the thing. People are like, is he really going to throw his weight around to get the Lakers to draft his kid? That I don't know. I'm not an NBA draft expert, but is Bronny really a draft prospect?
No.
If Bronny was not LeBron James' son.
No. In fact, I think LeBron is just holding on long enough because he wants to play
So
on the same
bad.
team as Bronny.
Yes.
The dumbest thing in sports is that whenever it happens is whatever team, if the Lakers draft Bronny so that LeBron stays or something like that, or if the Knicks, that is the most Knicks move ever to draft Bronny James just to get the LeBron to come to Madison Square Garden.
Could work.
It could work.
That's the thing. It could work.
It could work. It could work. That is the dumbest thing in sports this week. 615-737-1045 is how you weigh in with yours. Let's start with Will in Nashville up first. Hey, Will.
Hey, fellas. Sticking with the golf theme, I don't know if you saw the end of the Valero Texas Open, but Denny McCarthy was about 5 or 6 strokes back going into the last round, goes scorched earth, shoots a 28, forces a playoff. They go back to 18, a par 5. It's Akshay and Denny. They both lay up. Denny's 100 yards out, which Brett would probably attest is a money number for a player, especially one who's made 8 birdies on the last 9 holes. He duffs it into the creek, 15 yards short of the green, loses the playoff. That's not the dumbest thing. The dumbest thing is afterwards during the interview when they asked him what happened with the shot, he said he saw a bug on his golf ball and it distracted him. And I thought immediately.
Are you buying the excuse?
That's real, but I've hit a drive with a bee on my ball, and it's a dead bee.
If you can overcome a teeing off or taking a shot next to a gator, you can overcome a bee on your golf ball. One would think
that's tough. But hey, he's playing in the Masters, so I think it's okay.
What?
Quick question. We're about to hear Brian Callahan talk from Ascension St. Thomas Sports Park.
You want to talk actual Titans with the former Titans player?
What is it like when you go into an offseason program with a new head coach? Obviously, it's moved up. It started earlier. You
have a little bit of experience.
You've played under first-year head coaches.
That's right.
How different is that process when you have to come in early and it's more of a getting to know the environment you're in process versus rinse and repeat? We're back for year 2, year 3, and so on.
Yeah, I think it probably depends on where you're at in your career. You look at somebody like Morgan going in his 15th year, Pro Bowls, All-Pro. You got a lot on the resume. Somebody that was maybe your first year, second year. I mean, you got to, no matter where you're at, you got to prove yourself. Obviously, DeAndre Hopkins probably is good, right? Along those lines. But, I mean, really, no matter what coach comes in, you have to prove yourself all over again because you're trying to gain their trust, their approval. And so that, hard work. You can't miss the workouts or anything like that for the most part. And, you just got to put your head down, grind, and earn their trust.
Hank is up next with the dumbest thing in sports this week. Hey, Hank.
Hey, my dumbest thing in sports is CBS paying all the money that they pay for the NCAA tournament, and then on Final Four weekend they don't show a single basketball game.
Oh, they put it on TNT. Was it on their streamer? Is CBS Paramount?
Yes.
So did they put it on Paramount Plus? Because if they did, and that would be the only justification to not put it on CBS.
You can stream.
They put it on Max.
HBO Max, yes.
Oh.
And you can stream March Madness games on the March Madness app that you sign in with your TV provider.
Right,
and all
but
that
if
stuff.
because his point is paying all the money, if they paid all the money just to put it on their streamer to boost subscriptions, then it's absolutely worth it. Like, because I can completely understand, like the way that Amazon is doing with the NFL games.
Right.
They paid $78 million per game last year, and it was totally worth it because they've never seen that big a jump in subscriptions for Amazon Prime with any other product. Live sports is the only way to do that, so that would be the only justification to me.
I mean, I'm just as excited for the NHL playoffs, and you get to watch a game on MSNBC or CM.
Nothing excites me more than my annual search for True TV to go find
the first 4.
The NCAA playing games.
Hey, the NCAA playing games. That was we talked about that.
That was your 1B?
Oh my goodness.
Well, you'll have to come back and do the dumbest thing in sports with us again.
Dayton, Ohio. Like, come on.
All right, so who are you picking, Will or Hank, for the dumbest thing in sports this week to get a pair of Sounds tickets?
Has to be a bug on the golf ball.
Very detailed.
Will's got it. That's, I guess, to maybe admit that in your interview is. I'd much rather him just say, "Hey, I didn't hit the shot I wanted to," instead of saying, "Well, there was a bug on my golf ball." I mean,
I got shook. Okay.
I know golf is a very everybody quiet, hush, whatever, but I'm not very sympathetic to that, to somebody that got yelled at a lot of things, punting from the back of the end zone in the dog pound and other places like that. I can't turn around and say, "Hey guys, can you pardon your language, please? I'm trying to focus in."
Yes. Imagine turning around to Raiders fans in the black hole and being like, "Excuse me, madam."
Well, most of the people at the Raiders were high as a kite, so they probably didn't know they were at a Raiders game.
Just completely permeates the stadium.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Brett, it's always good to see you. It's been too long, bud.
Absolutely.
You're just in time to see George try and take out Lucas. There's a little red flag in the middle of the tender.
Hot.
He is wearing the gloves. This is how the process begins.
Thank you, George.
It's only hot, is what George says.
Oh, it's mac and cheese.
Perfect. Oh, my God. This is what, George?
Dirty Bird fries.
The Dirty Bird fries. What all are on the Dirty Bird fries?
It is
fresh
French fries, creamy macaroni, sliced green onions, pickles, and hot chicken.
Is this like a secret thing, or is this on the menu?
No, this is on the menu. This is why you come to Hattie B's. You can get the George experience anytime you come in.
Holy cow!
All right. So Brett Kern is
making
eyes at this Dirty Bird special that we have. He's gonna
plenty of forks here.
He's gonna dive in during the commercial break. Lucas, or rather Jackson, will call Will in Nashville to give him the Sounds tickets. Brett, thanks for hanging out here.
Absolutely, always a pleasure.
I'm Buck Rising, live from Hattie B's at the factory in Franklin. We're going to talk to Alex Doherty about the playoff-bound Preds coming up next. Welcome back here live at the factory at Franklin. We're hanging out here at Hattie B's. The lunch hour is upon us. The dirty bird that our guy brought over for us is excellent. Lucas has already done damage to half of it. I think Bert had more chicken than you did. Why are you still here eating? How much have you eaten today?
Leave him alone.
Turn your microphone on.
That's not my job here. That is not my job here.
Oh, I'm sorry. Are you delegate? Please tell Kirby that it's not your job here. Please do that to his face. I'd love to see it.
Kirby, you're doing a fine job. We can smoke a cigarette right after this.
Yeah, you think they're allies in this?
You answered your own question.
Kirby's on my side.
That's
the thing that we have learned time in and time out. That's why I ride with Kirby.
Until Bert bums him a cigarette.
Listen, my roster of people in this war is excellent. I've got Mike Golick Jr. I've got Dan Luss, the sports attorney. I've got Kirby Allen Kirby. I don't need you to.
You think Mike Golick Jr. is on your side, but he likes me because every time he comes on the show, I play as Taylor Swift and we talk food items. What are you going to talk to him about in the fast food world?
I watched March Madness with him at a bar in Los Angeles a couple of weeks ago.
We held hands.
I thought
you want to find me, Jackson? Find me for that. That's fine, Worthy. Eat it.
What's Mina Kimes up to? Drop some more names.
Yeah, Alex Doherty of the Tennessean is here. Lucas did not send you Alex's number. That's a shame. See, I was just getting ready to take out Jackson, and he very quickly chest passed the blame to Lucas, which made me very happy. So we'll talk with Alex Doherty about the playoff-bound Nashville Predators here in just a second. 615-737-1045 is the number if you want to jump in. In the meantime, don't forget that the Titans are having media availability today. They started their first day of practices and workouts on Monday. Well, report day was Monday, and this has been the first week of work that they have had underway. So you will hear from head coach Brian Callahan. You will hear from offensive and defensive coordinators Nick Holtz and Denard Wilson at 12:15. We'll carry those press conferences live for you. And if you're watching on Zone TV, you can physically watch along as well, too. Jackson has the technology to do just that. Preds get into the playoffs last night. They get officially the point, if not the overtime win, against the Winnipeg Jets, 4-3. The final score at Bridgestone Arena. Alex Doherty, boots on the ground as always, giving us excellent reporting for the Tennessean. Joins us now. Buddy, everybody wants to see them win, not just get into the playoffs. But the comeback that they almost pulled off, I thought, gave that place just as much juice as if they would have won the game.
Yeah, I mean, I think you could still call it a comeback. I mean, the win essentially kind of meant nothing, or the loss, I should say. The win for Winnipeg meant nothing. I don't think the result of the game is even the second or third most important thing that happened. I mean, the way that they started so poorly and went down 3-1, and then everything turned in the third period after that Michael McCarron fight. I mean, the place erupted, and they get kind of a fluky goal from Spencer Stastny where it was a great work from the whole line, but it's kind of strange how it went in. But Ryan O'Reilly is, I just continue to see how that guy steps up in big moments. He is continually the most impressive veteran forward that team has. I mean, like they are just, he is such a clutch player. It's been really fun to watch all season long, and he steps up in a big moment and just calmly ties the game and clinches the playoffs.
Is he the most important addition to this year's team?
I have been saying this since October, and yes, I think it is. I mean, Gustav Nyquist is probably the most surprising because of how well he's played in that role. But Ryan O'Reilly has been like a total change from what the team has had the last 5-6 years. I mean, I think I've even talked about this on your show. I mean, I've been saying it since they signed him. Like, it's having been around the guy. I mean, I knew his reputation coming in was sort of like this guy does everything he can possibly do to win games and to get better every day. I knew that was the reputation, but until you see it, you don't understand the difference. And I watched the previous, big players, the ones that are no longer here, come in and play a certain way and practice a certain way, and he just does it differently. He is a different operator, and in the practice room, on the practice rink, in the locker room, on the ice. He's a different animal, and I don't think that anyone can really overstate it. He is probably the most important offseason acquisition this team has made in a number of years.
Alex, even during this crazy run over the last couple of months that we've watched, we've seen the Preds struggle with these two things at times. So I'm curious if you could pick one thing that you think is more likely to let them down in the postseason that needs to be cleaned up. Is it inconsistency on special teams or mistakes in the defensive zone and giveaways in that area?
It's definitely the defensive area, especially the danger area, the slot sort of in front of the goal. I mean, every team tries to protect that, but what I saw last night was some carelessness combined with, I mean, the Jets have a really good counterattacking kind of style where they can really pack it in defensively and then bust out a 2-on-1 pretty easily. And I'll tell you who else is really good at that is Edmonton and Vancouver and Dallas, the three teams that the Predators will most likely face. They'll face one of those three teams. So if you don't get your defensive game solid, you're going to give up a ton of just wide open, looks in front of the net to Connor McDavid and Matt Duchene and Tyler Seguin and all those guys in Dallas and Vancouver with Pettersson and Besser. Like it's going to be ugly. They have to fix that. Special teams, you can get away with underperforming special teams in the playoffs, except for your penalty kill. You need your penalty kill to be solid. But if you don't clean up your defensive work in front of the goaltender, you will be home quick.
Preds are next in action on Friday against the Chicago Blackhawks, the hated Chicago Blackhawks, but already in the postseason by nature of the overtime result against the Winnipeg Jets last night. Alex Doherty, always good to join us. You can follow along at Alex Doherty1 on Twitter and read everything that he's got on the Tennessean, Tennessean.com for more information. Thank you, buddy. I appreciate the time.
Oh, that was it? Oh, we got a short one today.
Well, we figured you're busy. You're probably a little sleep deprived. You got a lot of work ahead of you. You're back in the playoffs. It's exciting. I haven't done playoffs in 2 seasons because of the damn Titans.
We're compensating.
I'm jealous.
Because we're going to need more from you down the road, so we don't want to tax you too heavily early.
No, that's okay. Yeah, anytime is good with me. Take it easy, y'all.
That's the main man, Alex Doherty, with us on 104.5 The Zone. Coming up next, the Titans offseason is officially underway. They are back at work. Will Levis, DeAndre Hopkins, Jeff Simmons, and the like, they're all in the building. You'll hear from head coach Brian Callahan in the noon hour coming up next, live from Hattie B's at the factory in Franklin here on 104.5 The Zone. Two Rivers Ford is the best place for you to get your new vehicle. Your new vehicle, your certified pre-owned vehicle, whatever you need, Two Rivers Ford is all about putting the customer in the driver's seat. That's why they're the South's most trusted Ford dealer. They go above and beyond to make sure that not only are you getting the best quality American-made Ford vehicles, but award-winning customer service is what they offer. Two Rivers Ford has been doing business as a locally owned and operated company in Middle Tennessee for over 40 years, and they are the gold standard. It's the reason why DeAndre Hopkins is a Two Rivers Ford customer. It's the reason why Coach Dave McGinnis of Titans Radio is a Two Rivers Ford customer. Ramon Foster, Don Davenport, Ben Jones, and myself, we have all gotten our vehicles from Two Rivers Ford and could not be more thrilled with the car buying experience. So visit the South's most trusted Ford dealer just 7 miles east of Nashville International Airport in Mount Juliet or online at tworiversford.com. Below MSRP? Below MSRP. Below MSRP. It's pretty simple. Two Rivers Ford sells all new non-specialty Fords below MSRP.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lock boxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
It is 12:03. Good afternoon. I'm Lucas Panzica, live from the Hattie Bees at the factory in Franklin on 104.5 The Zone. The Jacksonville Jaguars have agreed to a 5-year, $150 million deal with outside linebacker Josh Allen, $88 million of it in guaranteed money. Allen had a franchise record 17.5 sacks last season. And the Philadelphia Eagles' opponent for the Week 1 matchup in Brazil was announced this morning. They will face the Green Bay Packers in São Paulo on Friday of opening weekend in the upcoming season. The Titans will hold media availability today after starting the offseason program this week. Head coach Brian Callahan, offensive coordinator Nick Holtz, and defensive coordinator Denard Wilson will meet with the media starting at 12:15. You can hear it live right here on The Zone. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
It's a final hour here for us at the factory in Franklin at Hattie B's, their great location out here where our guy Anthony has just brought us some of the breakfast menu items to sample, and I don't think I've ever seen you eat something where it feels like you've met your match, Lucas. What is that sandwich in front of you?
This is the bacon, egg, cheese, and chicken honey butter biscuit. And the biscuit itself, what I'm most, because we know Hattie B's has the best hot chicken. Like, that's already a given. It's juicy, it's crispy, it's spicy to whatever level you want it. But it's the biscuit that I'm most impressed by. Like, fluffy, the honey butter on the top. It is a perfect biscuit. And that is so hard to achieve. Perfect chicken on a perfect biscuit. You have to come try it to find out.
Lucas would not steer you wrong, nor would Hattie B's. That's why we're out here. We've got an exciting announcement with Hattie B's later on in this hour. As a matter of fact, we've also got the Titans coaches speaking at the podium. We're going to carry Brian Callahan's press conference live for you, as the Titans are one of the first teams in the league to report for offseason programs. Will Levis, DeAndre Hopkins, Jeff Simmons, Calvin Ridley, L'Jarius Sneed. Really, really strong attendance for the first week of the offseason program, but understandably so. You got a quarterback operating in, what is this, his sixth different offensive system in the last couple of years. You've got new parts and pieces who are coming in both on offense and defense. You've got almost an entirely new coaching staff. Oh, no, George has brought us over something else.
Is this
what is
a float?
Oh, my God.
When's the last time you had a float?
George, this is exactly what I should not have.
They're too good to us here.
That is coating your stomach for later, okay?
Oh.
He's not done with us yet.
Well, see, he's not done with you. I told him at the very end of the show I would eat whatever it is. George just pointed at me and said, oh, no, you're going to do it.
Yeah, you named the time and place, George. We are at your mercy.
It's the truth, but we've just had – don't get away from my float, Kirby. Out of here. Out of here. Vulture. So while George is over here bringing us the entire menu array of the Hattie B's offerings, we'll keep you updated with the latest for the Tennessee Titans and what the head coach has to say here in just a little bit.
Think about that for Will Levis. Like, what would be the equivalent of that in your job? Going all the way back to his transfer.
Having to replace you every year, which I'm down for.
Fair enough.
In fact, I've been interviewing your replacement while you're on the air. Micah is going to take your job.
Micah or Brett Kern?
Micah, Brett Kern, Ben Jones tomorrow, everybody. I'm just actively shopping you each and every year.
Jackson's back at the studio.
Yeah. This is while you've been working your long game, my friend, I've been working mine.
Like, there was an offensive coordinator change when he was at Penn State. Then he transferred to Kentucky, played for Liam Cohen. Then he played for Rich Scangarello as his offensive coordinator at Kentucky. Then he gets to the NFL, and he plays under Tim Kelly. And now he's playing in this Brian Callahan, Nick Holtz offense. I just can't imagine how much that has your head swimming year to year to year and how challenging that is for a quarterback.
That's the job, though.
I understand you say that, and that's fair. Like, you play long enough, you're going to play under different coordinators. But that is unique. Like, 6 years in a row of that.
No, it's not unique. Baker Mayfield just did it. Baker Mayfield just did it, Lucas. This happens all the time in the pros.
Talking about for somebody to start his career, to be in one place, transfer to another, and then start his NFL career in the midst of that most quarterbacks find their best success when they have continuity with a coach and a coordinator. It is very hard to do when that environment is ever-changing.
I'm not disputing that at all. I'm just saying that is entirely the environment that the NFL exists in, unless you do the thing that the Titans have just done, which is to try and maintain that continuity and have that offensive-minded head coach who is going to call your offensive plays and not have to worry about losing your offensive coordinator year in and year out. Now, whether Brian Callahan's any damn good at it, we don't know yet. We'll find out. We've got several months until the product actually hits the field. But we'll hear from the head coach at the podium coming up next. Back live at the factory here in Franklin on 104.5 The Zone. Brian Callahan going to speak to the media here in just a second. The Titans head coach, Jackson, will let us know when he's up and available. It was funny. Lucas and I both just ran to the bathroom at the same time and almost didn't make it back for the start of the segment. But, Lucas, should we talk about the Colts fan before or after Brian Callahan gets here? Because I feel like we could have an extended discussion about that, because he was just in here eating at Hattie B's and then stopped me on the way back from the bathroom to say some words, and I want to talk about it, and I think the audience would get a kick out of it, but I think we should do that after Brian Callahan. Yes?
Sure.
So
we have a lot of things to do after Brian Callahan.
We'll do that. Yes, there is. In fact, there's a big announcement that we've got that we're very excited about since we're out here at Hattie B's, and it's more than just the breakfast menu, though the breakfast menu is enough to be excited about. How's that root beer float?
Don't worry about it.
Okay, Brian Callahan's talking. We'll get Lucas's root beer float review later.
To the players, hi, who are you? And how much of it is introducing, your concepts and what you're wanting to start doing?
It's all of that. This first week in particular is an orientation is the best way to put it. We're trying to lay out expectations, guidelines, what we want our team to look like. And you start at the very basics. You make no assumptions that even though these guys have all played a long time, we started with teaching how we're going to get in the huddle and how we're going to break the huddle and then how we're going to line up. All of those things, it's a very step-by-step process. We don't skip steps, and you don't make any assumptions. And so a lot of that's going to be starting from the ground floor on the offensive and defensive and special team systems, as well as getting to know the players. So we're making sure we have plenty of time for each position coach to have their meeting time so they can set their expectations and standards and just get to know who these guys are. I mean, this is our first exposure to them in a football setting. And I think it's important, as I've stated multiple times now, that the relationships we have with the players is an integral part of how we're going to operate. And so you have to work to build those relationships. It's a process, and it takes time, and that's what this time of year is for.
What was your very opening message to the guys first time in front of them?
Really two things. I think that I said it in my opening press conference too, and two critical factors that we want our team to be when you turn our tape on is relentless and resilient. And they got that message the first day. It's a huge part of what I believe in. And then the other part of it is just some very simple things that we have expectation-wise. I don't do rules. I don't have a lot of things that they need to abide by. But, I want guys to be themselves. I want guys to be on time, and I want to protect our team, and that's really what I live by. And so that's sort of the first opening message that they got. We'll talk every time I have a team meeting, usually once a week at this point, on what some part of our culture that we want to make sure we emphasize. So it's a slow process. We're not racing against anything to get all those things introduced, but the opening message was certainly that we want to be a relentless and a resilient football team.
How maybe has attendance been so far, and if assuming it's good, how maybe encouraging is that guys are excited about what's coming up and maybe the new regime?
Yeah, there's been great energy with all the players in the building. Even as guys were filtering into town over the last 2-3 weeks and showing up and working out, I just felt an excitement. Anytime there's change, you can handle it one of two ways. You can be disappointed by it, or you can be excited and ready to embrace whatever comes your way. And I think these guys have done a great job of embracing the newness of it all. These are always fun, man. I never know what's going to happen. But our guys have done a great job of embracing the newness and the excitement of what's to come. And I think that I've appreciated that from them. And I think as you get to talk to them as the weeks go on, you'll get their perspectives on it. But I've felt really good about the start we've had this week.
Is the attendance good at this point? How much does it matter to you that everyone, or as many people as possible here?
Yeah, we want everybody here if we can have them, but it's a voluntary program. We can't make anybody be here. There's no ramifications or repercussions to not being here. And so guys have places they work out, people they like to be around. It doesn't stress me out too much. We'll coach whoever's here. Eventually they'll all be here. They have to be at some point. So the guys that don't show up, that's on them. It's not a thing I get worried about or mad about or anything like that. They handle their business, and we'll be together when we're together. But I've been pleased with the attendance. I've been happy that the guys have been here, the guys that are here. And, if someone misses a day or two or misses a week, misses 4 or 5 weeks, it doesn't really matter to me at this point. We're going to coach as hard as we can, as much as we can for the time we're allotted, and whoever's here is going to be here. But I've been very pleased with our attendance so far in this first week.
Do you have a rough number or percentage on what that is?
No.
Obviously, a big time for Zach right at the beginning. What's maybe different or unique about his philosophy, and what do you want him conveying to the guys right out of the gate?
Just the style that we're going to work with in that space, in the performance space. You got a really great staff. It's a numbers-wise a heavier staff. You got 6 on the staff plus Lauren and the nutritionist, so you got 7 people in the performance world for us. And I just love their plan. I love their energy. It's an old school. There's old school elements that have to be a part of that. You still have to do hard things. You have to lift hard. You have to condition. But then there's also the science factor of as making sure we're doing the right things when we're doing them, what the loads are. There's a lot more that can go into that. I'm not a performance coach. I don't know all the details the way that he does. So at some point, maybe you guys will get to talk to him. But there's a science part and the management part that filters in with the hard part. And I think that they do a great job of mixing that process together. And
Will the guys notice a difference, you think, right away there?
I would hope so. You'd have to ask them. I don't want to speak for them, but I'm personally very excited about what that looks like so far, and the plan that they've presented and put together that we've had meetings about, and how this is going to go for phase 1, 2, and 3, and into the season and training camp. So really, really excited about that group and what they've done there.
For Levis, how do you go about that process of making him establish himself as the leader? Do you pull him aside, pour more time into him, or how do you do that?
I want Will to be him. He's got to do it in his own way, and you can't make people do anything that's outside of their character or doesn't come across as genuine. And I think Will does a really good job of staying true to who he is. And there's obviously things along the way that I think are that I'll think are important, and I'll make sure that I convey those to him. But I'm not going to ask him to go be anybody that he's uncomfortable being. I need Will to just be the best version of himself. And he's got a job to do as the leader of the offense, as a leader of the football team. And I think he understands that. And I think that's the biggest part, is understanding what your role is, and that you have to be visible. People have to see you. You have to make sure you're building the same relationships that I have to build as the head coach. You're building them with everybody across the team, because the team needs to see you and ultimately have a relationship where they believe in you. And I think that obviously went a long way doing that last year. In his time that he played as the starter, I think he started to realize how important it was. I've been very pleased with his demeanor, his actions as he started the offseason program. And again, we're in our first few days, but really excited about where he's headed in that role. And so again, we have a lot of resources here. I told all the quarterbacks the other day that one of the unique parts about playing quarterback in the NFL is you have a staff of people that have a ton of experience. We've got guys from all over the league on both sides of the ball. Use our intellectual property, ask them questions, talk to guys, and if you can find something that helps you, there's a lot of people here that are willing to do that. So I think that he understands that there's a seeking nature to where he's at right now, as well as trying to find out all the information he can from every which way he can find it.
In terms of that, with Will being a young guy, how important is it to try to find that balance between still learning what's going on and learning what his role is going to be, versus having to assume that leadership role?
Yeah, it's a two-pronged process. It kind of happens simultaneously, but if you ever were to ask anybody that plays what comes first, and obviously the performance comes first, and so he's going to pour into learning a new system, learning what's asked of him, how to execute at a high level, and in his operation of learning, he can help get the information of the other guys on the offense, and that's where you start to take on a leadership role. But as a leader, you always got to make sure you're taking care of what you need to take care of first, so that your example, at the minimum, is what you want people to follow. And I think he's done a really good job of that. But there's an element where he's got two things going on. He's trying to build relationships and be a leader, as well as learn an entirely new way of doing and playing football than he's been accustomed to in his first year. So he's got a lot on his plate.
When you talk about doing things his way, from what you've seen so far, what is his way? How would you describe his way?
Just from what I've seen so far, and again, I'm still learning Will every day that goes on. But he's got an intensity and an intent to every time he walks in the building. I think you see that in his play. When you watch him play, you see that intensity, that fire that he's got. That's not manufactured. That's how he is. He's got a way about him that is driven. I think he wants to be a great player, and he puts the requisite work in. That part's been fun to see. Just as you see him in the offseason, he went out to California to work with some people. He's very determined to improve his game, and I think that part, you have that part, you got a chance to do a lot of really cool things. But I've seen that from him in this early portion. He is front and center. He takes notes. He asks questions. He does all the things you'd want to see early in the process of a guy that's trying to improve his game and get better.
How beneficial can it be? We saw with Will Levis last year in D-Hop's relationship, and just D-Hop being that veteran wide receiver. Now you add a guy like Calvin Ridley in free agency. How beneficial is that to a guy like Will Levis, who's only entering his second season?
It's hard to probably understate the help that provides, where you have two really veteran players that have experience in the NFL. They've done it, for lack of a better term. And when you're a young player, sometimes that helps because they can come to him and have the conversation about how they run a route, the technique. They're probably much more apt to be able to communicate that to him than he may be to communicate that to them because of their experience. And to have experienced players around a young quarterback certainly helps, because they're not necessarily always learning the same lessons together. There's some things that maybe Calvin's been through with his quarterbacks in previous places that he can share an experience or a story that may help that process move quicker than if you got two young players trying to do it together and sort of finding their own way. These guys have found their way. They're really proven players, and that's always got to be an advantage for a young quarterback.
First time we talked to you since Snead is signed. How big of an acquisition was that? How you like maybe the secondary as it stands right now?
Oh man, I my feelings about L'Jarius is as having to had compete against him. He's such a fantastic player, and the mentality that he brings to the defense, and you pair him with Cheeto, two guys that are really physical, really aggressive. I think they change the whole demeanor of what you ask in the secondary and how they play. And I think when you add Roger into that mix as well, the fire that he plays with as a nickel, that's a really good group of corners that play at a high level and demand the same standard. And I think that's what you're looking for ultimately, guys that play like that, but then demand it from everybody else around them. And man, I played against L'Jarius enough times to have an immense amount of respect for how he goes about his business. And I think you guys got to see a little bit of it in his press conference, but he is a fantastic person on top of it. So I really feel like he's a huge addition to our team, both as a player and as a person in the locker room.
How do your days work right now with OTAs, with draft meetings, with top 30 visits?
They are busy. We start at 8 a.m. with our players. Right now, currently, with the way the phase one is constituted, our offense meets and our defense lifts, and then after a 2-hour period, we flip, and that keeps us at our 4-hour day. So I'm in as many of those football meetings as possible. I have a team meeting to run on Monday. I was in the special teams meeting Tuesday. I run all of our installation meetings for the offense, and then when that's over, I go right into the defense and listen to Denard do his thing. Usually get some lunch, and then I'm probably lined up to meet with whoever's in for a 30 visit, which has been at least one player a day for what feels like the last 3 weeks. I don't know if it's actually been that long, but it feels like it's been a while. We've had a constant flow of these players coming into the building. I meet with those players when they come in, and then in the afternoon we're in the draft room, and our coach has just finished reading their draft reports. Today will be the last day within the last 2 days of that. So I probably get to sit down at my desk sometime around dinner time, and then I start my prep for the next day. So they're long days, but it's fun. I've enjoyed every second of it, but we're full. I mean, my time is pretty well divided up, and there's not a lot of free time, and it's a lot of work from kind of minute to minute over the course of the day.
Let's go. What's the most important thing for you out of those top 30 visits? What do you need to hear or see?
Just the same thing as always. We watch the tape. The tape's been graded. We know what the player is on their tape, but we're trying to get a feel for the person and ask the questions. And some guys we know very well about their character, and it's more of a confirmation. And some guys we're bringing in to find more out about who they are as a person. And you just try to have every bit of information you can get and gather on the person, because the tape is the tape. You grade that, but as much background information as you can get, you try to get. Some of these guys we've had scouts and coaches at the pro days. We've had the 30 visits. We've had the combine time. We've spent a lot of time on these players to make sure that when that moment comes, if that's the player we pick, we're very comfortable with who they are, both as a player and as a person. So it's more about just getting to know them as opposed to anything real football or technical. That is a part of the day. Don't get me wrong, but for me, it's a huge part of what kind of people are we bringing in.
What do you get to start your off-season program a couple of weeks ahead of other teams? How much of an advantage is that giving you, especially in these early parts as you're meeting these players, a lot of them for the first time?
It gives you an advantage. We chose to start our off-season program. We could have started last week. We chose to start this week just because it marries the weeks up better as it goes along. As you know, there's a handful of teams that started this week. A couple of them started last week. But the off-season program as a whole, it helps if you just start this week to match it all up. It's a huge advantage because this first week is, like I said, it's like an orientation. You know, they're trying to get to know us. We're getting to know them. There's a lot of procedural things that are new for the players here. The coaches are new. The relationships are new. So, that extra time is a huge help. So when everybody starts in the NFL next week, at least we've had some time to, get the beginning stages worked through, and then hopefully next week we're starting up and we feel like we're right on pace with the rest of the teams in the league. But it's a long process, and every extra minute helps. And we're sort of in a little bit of a sprint between now and the start of the season with every other team in the league, and we're trying to do the best we can to catch up to the teams that are established and make sure that we're ready to play in September.
As you go through that process, like with the prospects and even in the draft meeting rooms, like how do you personally approach guys who have so-called off-the-field issues or baggage, character concerns?
You find out what it is that is considered a character concern. You know, there's, I think a lot of these guys are 19, 20, and 21-year-old kids. I think about a lot of the things that I did when I was that age, and I don't know that people would have, not that they were bad things, but yeah, I like to be around my buddies and go out and go to a party and do that. I mean, those are all things that these guys do, and sometimes they get unfairly knocked for some of those things. And some of them have real life issues that they're working through, that have real difficulties in their home lives growing up, and those are things that they have to work through themselves that are part of the equation. But I think you have to really make sure you're judging the kids on the right things and doing the homework on the background and making sure that you're not making any assumptions about what a college coach told you about it when the scout went in November to visit. So you really do your homework and making sure that if a character issue is considered a real character issue that that we don't want to absorb into our locker room, that we know that it's legitimate and one that we're not going to take a risk on, or maybe it isn't that, and the perception is that there's issues with somebody and there are things that we've worked through and feel comfortable with. So that's what this process is for, and that's why we spend the time that we do with all these players and the 30 visits and on the Zoom interviews. And there's a ton of time invested into making sure that we get whatever those issues might be ironed out, and whether they're real issues that have to be dealt with, or they're things that maybe aren't as detrimental as the perception might be.
How do you kind of assess the defensive line situation beyond Jeffrey Simmons? Obviously, Autry and Tart were big parts of what they've done here in the past. Both those guys are going.
Yeah, it's a position that's still in its building phase. You know, we got guys that we feel good about, but just like any front, offensive or defensive front, you're never going to turn down good players that can bolster that. It always is going to start and end there. If you can play physical in the trenches, you're going to have a chance to be a pretty good football team. And so those are always areas we're going to look to add players, even when we might have what we think is a good front, which we do. There's always going to be opportunities to keep adding to it, because all I know is when you play against a team that seems to kind of come at you in waves and every player they put out there can play, that's a lot of stress on an offense from my perspective. So, the more guys you have that can rush from inside and outside, the stouter you play against the run, that's an area that you're always looking to keep adding good players to.
Brian, first of all, we're doing well.
I am, thank you.
Good, glad to hear it, man. From there, how much does what you guys did at free agency, as far as players you signed, impact how you view the draft, if at all?
Oh yeah, it's a huge part. When you start the free agency process, thankfully we have a scouting department that works their tails off and have done a really great job of getting the starting process. And when you get into this, we were late because of the hire and all that, but you have a draft and you have a free agency, and so you target a lot of your free agency based on potentially what's in the draft. And so you might have some available defensive free agents. Like we felt like there was corners that we could go sign. And maybe there wasn't as many corners in the early parts of the draft that were of the same caliber. And so those two processes work simultaneously. And as you add players of need in free agency, which is what free agency is for, you want to add players you need to have at positions that are of need. The draft then opens up for you, and you're able to take a little bit more of an open-minded approach on what the best players are at those positions. You obviously always have needs that are in your back of your mind, but when you pick at 7 and you pick at 38 and you're picking at the high ends of these rounds, you want to be open and free to take ultimately what the best player is available to you. And so free agency is a good way to supplement that. The hope is in the future that we are drafting and developing and just signing in free agency with a little bit more discretion. We had to go sign a bunch of players this year, but the goal is to always draft and develop and supplement in free agency as it goes on.
I'm sorry, but do you feel what you did allows you to be free in that way?
I do. I feel really good about where we're at. I feel like there's going to be opportunities to draft some good players. You don't control what happens in front of you, and so as these picks go off, it allows you to be a little more flexible in your approach, and whatever that pick may be, we can find that best player for us in the process. So I do feel like the free agency has opened our ability to be more open-minded in the draft.
Still a couple of weeks to the draft, but will there be certain guys that you'll advocate for, fight for, stand for the table for, whatever you want to call it, and what's that process going to be like with Rand?
I think you advocate and fight for guys when you have a really strong opinion, or there's a large difference, maybe in the positions and where you feel like, as an offensive coach or a defensive coach, you feel strongly that you might need. But it usually doesn't work that way where you're fighting for much, because you prepare, you go through all the different scenarios. You work through every, there might be 50 different scenarios that happen in front of us at pick 7. And so you have to work through all of those things, all the contingencies. What happens if this player is there? What happens if that player is there? Would we be comfortable with this player over that player? And you go through all of these exercises at your picks, and particularly as the first and second round for sure, because that's a process you have to work through, so you're not surprised on draft day. So by the time we get to the draft, all these conversations have been had. People have said their piece. We've had the conversations about who we prefer, and ultimately when we make the decision, it'll be the Titans' decision, and that's everyone's going to move forward with that. So this is the time for all of those things when people are coaches are advocating for guys they like, scouts are advocating for the players they like. You have conversations if there's huge discrepancies in the grades, and you figure out where that difference is, and you come to consensus on whatever player you're discussing. And so the process has been fun, but it's an enjoyable process. There's a lot of conversation. This is when all the advocating happens. And then by the time we get to the draft, we've cemented our plan for the most part on what directions we'll head based on what events happen in front of us.
How do you feel about where you are at tight end?
We need tight ends. We do. We only got 3 on the roster. We'll obviously take quite a few more than that to training camp. So that's a position of need just in terms of the numbers. Feel really good about Josh Wiley and his development. Feel good about Chig where he's at. We got 2 young players we're excited about, but. Obviously 3 tight ends isn't what you're going to take in the training camp. So there's going to be some spots to add, whether that comes from a veteran player after the draft, whether it comes from a draft pick at tight end, remains to be seen, but certainly need to add more than what we have currently. We'll probably take at least 5, probably 6 tight ends in a training camp. Generally speaking, that's usually where you're at. So there'll be some guys added to that room at some point.
You've rolled a million different directions since you've been this head coach. What's the best part of this week and actually having a team in the building and doing the coaching part?
Just that. I love coaching football. I love being in the meeting room. That's where I feel like I'm in my element, and that's been the most exciting part. I love being around the players, and I've always maintained that the day the players come back in the off season is probably the best day of the off season, because you spend all this time in these meetings and you're with all the same people, and there's just a new energy when players come back in the building. That's what we like. That's what I like doing. That's what coaches like doing, is coaching football. And for me, that first day back and being able to be in a meeting room and talk football and talk scheme and be around the players, that's where I find the most joy, and that's the part I like the most. And so, to answer your question, coaching again is what it's made it feel the most normal for me. That's what I'm used to doing, and all the other stuff has been great, and I've enjoyed it. But coaching is what I like doing the most.
That's Titans head coach Brian Callahan at the podium. They have been at the facility for a couple of days now, workouts ongoing in their offseason program. We'll react to some of that. Last call for phone calls and a major announcement, a big show announcement with our friends out here at Hattie B's, live at the factory at Franklin in their location out here. I'm Buck Rising. It's 104.5 The Zone. The future of medicine is here at QC Kinetics. They're the nation's leader in the most exciting revolution in pain management we've seen in decades, regenerative medicine. If you're tired of achy joints, if your joint pain is keeping you from doing what you love, you need to call QC Kinetics right now. Surgery, steroids, drugs, these are no longer your best options. Regenerative medicine at QC Kinetics is transforming lives with innovative treatments that deliver lasting results. We're talking natural biologics using your body's own power to repair and restore damaged tissue. QC Kinetics is under the leadership of National Medical Director Dr. Mitchell Scheinkupp. Dr. Scheinkupp is a pioneer in this field with 20 years of clinical work, tons of research, teaching, and publishing. He wants to get you relief with a needle and not a knife. So call QC Kinetics now to learn more about some exciting options. 615-249-4024. That's 615-249-4024.
It is a.
Wait, now, George, just wait, because we're now live on the air, so I'm going to have you tell people what's going on here in just a second. Okay. All right? We're hanging out at Hattie B's here at the factory in Franklin. This is the spot that you need to be if you want to try out their new breakfast menu. It's the only Hattie B's location. Like I mentioned earlier, we got tweets from listeners in Austin, Texas, asking us if they could get breakfast at their Hattie B's location. That's not the case. It's only right here at the factory in Franklin. And, of course, famously, only right here at the factory at Franklin is George, okay? George has been out here trying to undo us at great lengths, mostly Lucas, with various levels of hot chicken. George, what is this microphone on, Kirby? George, what have you brought?
1 2 1 2.
Loud and clear.
1 2, loud and clear.
All right, George, what have you done?
And I think Nashville to Austin has direct flights, so come on, they can come eat breakfast with us.
That's right, Saturday morning.
Today we are giving you our Nashville hot shut the cluck up sandwich with our creamy coleslaw and our homemade bacon pimento cheese.
That's
This
fantastic. All sounds delightful,
It
except
is delightful.
the shut the cluck up portion of that.
The shut the cluck up, the pimento cheese will help you with the shut the cluck up, I promise.
Okay, well, George,
Okay?
this is a special occasion. You know this, right? Because today is the first day that we are announcing that the Buck Rising Show is officially fueled by Hattie B's. They are the new title sponsor of the radio show. We could not be more thrilled. And George, as a peace offering or as a commemorative moment of this new venture into the future together, you've brought us the one thing that could effectively end the radio show. Literally.
Forever.
If I took a bite of this will end the
It
radio
will
show.
keep you awake all during the day.
Yeah, I bet.
I promise you. Okay?
And tonight.
And I do challenge Joe Hunk. I want him to eat one sandwich.
A whole sandwich,
one.
because you've
Sandwich.
split this into halves for us.
Yes.
All
Joe
right.
Hunk needs a whole one.
So now there's 10 minutes left in the radio show, so I can't eat it yet.
Yep.
But we are going to make sure that I at least take a bite of the Shut the Cluck Up sandwich here in just a second. George, buddy, we always appreciate the way that you take care of us.
y'all
We're
for
out here at
coming.
the factory
You're the best,
in Franklin.
man.
Come see George at the factory in Franklin. Come try out Hattie B's new breakfast menu. And make sure that you're going to the Hattie B's nearest you. They are all over the country at this point, and we are very, very proud to be in a partnership with them. Nick Bishop, Senior and Junior, the entire crew, Anthony, George, everybody who's been so good to welcome us into their locations, and now for some reason want to get into business with us. It feels like a bad idea. It feels like this chicken sandwich. This is very representative of what the hell this radio show is. It may cause digestive issues later, but we're all for it.
All for it. I love Hattie B's, man.
I know.
This is becoming my favorite place in this town.
It says
you want me to get a messy bite?
A messy bite. All right, so Lucas is going to do this first because it's less essential that he talk. So he's going in. There's Shut the Cluck Up chicken. Kirby is providing him with the necessary tools.
Look how dark the seasoning is on that side.
It's because it's radioactive.
It's pitch black.
Is what it is. All right, it is softened by the pimento cheese. There's lettuce. There's
bacon falling out of it.
It's aesthetically, it's beautiful.
The brioche bun is soft and toasted.
All right, now shut up and eat it. Okay, the first bite has been consumed. For those of you watching on Zone TV, this is a slow burn, no pun intended. You will see the reaction in real time. How is morale at this point? You're chewing. You seem comfortable. You're not sweaty.
No, it's good. The pimento cheese blunts it, right? Like, that's the first thing you taste. And now the heat's creeping up.
Uh-oh.
And it's very slow. That's the thing about it. Like, you take a bite, and you're like, this isn't that bad. It's just good
keep
chicken.
talking. Just keep talking.
And then it just slowly starts creeping.
Oh, I can see it in his eyes.
He's turning red.
Oh, my God.
Man.
There is. So, of course, are you going for another bite?
Uh-huh.
You don't have to do the Shut the Cluck Up challenge if you come out to Hattie B's, but you can always get any of their hot
Here
chicken.
come the hiccups.
George see, I'm a hiccup person too, but George gave me the hiccups with the mild, okay? I can't do Shut the Cluck Up.
These are like full body hiccups.
I'll die. I will actually expire
like convulsions
on air the way that George is
one more
nefariously rubbing his hands together.
One more bite.
Get in there. Get in there. Be a man.
Go.
That was a much smaller sampling
Yeah,
than the first bite.
he learned
It was a little
from
smaller.
The fact that you're still like
Alive.
functioning.
No, I mean, the chicken is amazing. Like, the chicken itself is some of the best fried chicken you will ever have.
Remember to breathe.
The breathing makes it worse because the oxygen fuels the chicken.
I know, that's why I told you to breathe. Jackson, give me some polls.
Hello, everyone listening to the Buck Rising Show. This is Benjamin Kenobi, better known as Obi-Wan. I have but one thing to say. Lucas, use the Force. Use the Force, Lucas, to help interpret what the hell Chewie is saying. Oh, scrap that rubbish. Lucas, I am not your father. I repeat, I am not your father, nor am I Buck's father. I was once a Jedi Knight, and what I'm trying to say is, Lucas, it's time to update the final poll results here on the Buck Rising Show. Do it now.
Now, just in the nick of time, no pun intended, Nick Bishop Jr. has sat down with us. Him and his father, of course, started Hattie B's. We are so excited to have Hattie B's be the presenting sponsor of the radio show moving forward. Nick, please explain to us why the hell you wanted to get into business with this particular radio show.
Take a bite while he answers.
Okay.
Yeah, come on. I love you guys. I think you're the best. I think the way you talk about sports and culture in Nashville is refreshing, and so I just.
Oh my God, this was such a bad idea.
He's
Why
gonna
would
play
you
it
do
up.
this?
I really just want you to look like an idiot on camera. It really was more.
We apparently have accomplished that.
He's being dramatic.
No, I don't think so. I don't think so.
It's all about the theater.
That was a throw up worthy hiccup.
Well, Nick, we love you guys.
We're going to finish the radio.
We're going to do one poll here. The poll question, polls are presented by Two Rivers Ford. Which Hattie B's breakfast item most has your attention?
Damn you, George.
42% say it's the hot chicken biscuit. 31% say it's the honey butter biscuit. 27% say the hot chicken and waffle. Goody says with Masters Week, the pimento cheese and chicken sounds pretty good. What's
Why
your
would
personal
anybody
favorite?
do that to themselves?
That's it. The pimento cheese and that's
doesn't get any
fire.
better.
It's so good.
Oh man, happy to be here. Love
We've
Hattie
got
B's.
beer.
We love you guys. Congrats.
We love you, man. Appreciate it.
A lot of love going around here. I don't love you right now, but I do love Hattie B's.
I loved watching that.
I'm sure you did. I'm going to crack a beer because the radio show is over. Have a great rest of your afternoon. We'll talk to you tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. on 104.5 The Zone. Help.